Stillman and Company, 1025, 1063. The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. We are live today from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. Ian is here today. Hello, Ian.
What up, what up?
I am going to the Grand Ole Opry tonight.
What for?
Madeline Merlot is making her Opry debut. We're very, very, very excited about that.
Cool.
Madeline Merlot, great singer, good person. We're very, very excited. So I'll be enjoying the Opry tonight. What I will not be enjoying, though, is at least what I think the rest of this football season. I don't want to be mean. We tell it like it is, and we kind of try to keep it real. And so as I try to keep it real here, and I try to be honest with everybody about where we are in the season, and I understand people get mad at me when it comes to saying things people don't like. The mean radio guy said we weren't going to be any good this year. Well, hate to say it, but truth hurts. But I want to start on this, which is today, I was on a phone call with somebody, and they said to me at the beginning of the phone call, how much longer do I have to watch Will Levis? That was what they said to me. That was the opening of the phone call. How much longer do I have to watch Will Levis for? And I said, well, does it matter? And this is the question that I have for a lot of Titan fans. I brought this up about yesterday about how I said, I'm big picture here. Is the coach the right coach? Is the GM the right GM? Is the president the right president? The answer for the last two is, in my opinion, no. But I'm more worried about, the big picture of the Tennessee Titans and getting it right so that one day there can be a football season again that we get excited about than I am the rest of the 2024 season. They're going to lose the next two games. They're going to go on the road to Buffalo and they're going to lose. They're going to go on the road to Detroit and they're going to get annihilated. Then they host New England. They might win that game. They're not going to beat Minnesota. They're not going to win any of the two Houston games. They're not going to beat Washington. They're not, it is what it is. You can't talk yourself into this team becoming a good team, no matter what Brian Callahan says at a press conference. But I'm reminded of something that Floyd told me years ago when he said that the first thing a general manager has to do when they take command of a team is they have to ask the owner, what kind of team do you want to be? And I said, well, shouldn't the owner be looking at you saying, hey, I want the best team I can get? And he goes, no, because there's different ways to skin a cat. And if you want the best defense, I can try to build you the best defense. If you want the best running game, if you want to be a tough, physical, control the line of scrimmage team, and you want to be, I can do that. If you want to be a team that tries to pass it up and down the field, I can build you that. But I can't build you a team with the run and shoot offense if you want to be a ground and pound football team. I can't do it. And I said, okay. So here's my question to everybody for the rest of the season. What do you want to be? What do you care about the rest of the year? Are we all like me and have we all moved on to 2025? Because if you're like me and you've moved on to 2025, then it doesn't matter what they do at quarterback. If anything, the idea of playing Mason Rudolph is a bad thing because I hate to say it, but I think the Titans are more likely to win football games with Mason Rudolph at quarterback than they are that all of a sudden the magic fairy comes in and sprinkles their dust on Will Levis and all of a sudden he turns into a quarterback who knows how to play football and not turn it over to the other team and not make excuses for it after the game. So, if you want to win the New England game, if you want to give yourself a chance on the road at Indianapolis, if you want to split with Jacksonville, then go play Mason Rudolph. If you want to be awful and pick number one or pick number two, then you stay with the guy now who's utterly terrible. And no matter how many injuries the other team has, and no matter how many bad decisions they make, backup quarterbacks, bad coaches, it doesn't matter. This guy, he can't beat anybody in his current state. So if that's the case, I mean, I hate to break it to you, but I'm here for more of that because I've given up on 2024. And yet again, I think there's a big part of this fan base that isn't necessarily concerned with competing in 2024, but is more so concerned about being able to watch the Titans for the rest of 2024. That's like, I just want to sit on my couch on Sunday and flip on the game and have a hope that my team can win. I get it. Being awful stinks. I will never forget Ryan Suckup going to kick a field goal in December of 2016 in Kansas City, knowing that if you made the field goal, the way the AFC South was starting to break, if you made the field goal, you had a shot at making the playoffs. And as he went there to make that 55-yard kick, I remember standing up because I couldn't sit down. I was so nervous. And I stood up and I said, God, I've missed games like this. When I was a kid and the Titans were good, it always came down to the wire with Steve McNair trying to lead them back for a victory. Vince Young, you can say whatever you want about Vince Young. Vince Young won a lot of football games and played in some meaningful ones. But in the Jake Locker years and the Mike Munchak and the Ken Wisenhunt, there wasn't really a lot to look forward to. There wasn't really anything, quite frankly. The games were just a trudge. And then all of a sudden, with Mike Mularkey as the coach, Mariota as the quarterback, the Titans found themselves in December of 2016 with a pulse, with a chance to compete. Boy, that was exciting. And then from 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, and 22, the Titans never played a week 17 or 18 game that didn't matter. I got used to it. Then last year happened at the beginning of the year. They thought they could be a competitor. And then midway through the year, they decided we're going to trade Kevin Byard. We're going to try to trade Derrick Henry. Amy Adams-Strunk said we can't do that. And we're going to go with the young quarterback and wave the white flag because we stink. And then get rid of Mike Vrabel. But even then, it wasn't like we thought that the Titans were years and years away, right? Remember all the talk of, well, next year we'll have $100 million in cap space. That had the assumption to it that we will compete, Jared, next season. I'm not ready to get rid of the 2025 season or the 2026 season. I'm not ready to give up on next year. I'm not ready to give up on the year after that. But I am ready to give up on this year. I don't see any upside in the Titans winning any more games this year. Sorry. And I don't see any upside in changing the quarterback. I don't see any reason to do it that would make me sit back and say, okay, now I feel good about the Titans because on Sunday with Mason Rudolph at quarterback, they actually have a chance to win some games. But I don't know if everybody else thinks like me. And that's where I go back to the asking the owner, what kind of football team do you want to be? Well, I don't talk to the owner, so I can't ask her what her expectations for the rest of the 2024 season are. But I can ask you, what do you want to be? What matters to you? Does getting it right for 2025 and 2026 matter to you? Or does entertaining yourself for the rest of 2024 mean something to you? It means nothing to me. This season, as far as I'm concerned, this season is over. But I also know that fans are fans and they always want to win the next game. And some people will say that it's a loser's mentality to give up on the season, that it's a loser's mentality to know that your team stinks. So I ask you, what do you want this season? Do you want this season to be entertaining the rest of the way in terms of, because let me tell you something, there are a lot of weeks until we get to January 9th or whatever the last day of the year is. There are a lot of weeks. That's going to be a lot of losing football. But is that what you want? There's this one guy who never shuts up on the YouTube chat and on the text line about, this is the plan. Amy wants to tank for Quinn Ewers. And I'm like, no, this was not the plan this year. I can promise you, this was not the plan, was, hey, we're going to stink. But it is what it is. They thought the quarterback was going to be good. But remember every interview Brian Callahan did? So, again, I go back to the conversation I had today, which was how many more games do I have to watch of Will Levis? Oh, God. Well, it's a 17-game season and you've played 5. So, 12? If you want to get the number 1 pick. And then we have to discuss about who's going to be doing the picking with the number 1 pick. But I'm sorry. To me, I'll ask you, and if you guys say you want to win in 2024, then that's okay. Then I'll start banging the drum to play Mason Rudolph, because Mason Rudolph gives you a better chance to win games right now. But I have given up on this year. But what do you think? 615-737-1025, which is our phone number, 615-737-1025. Plus, I hear all this talk about rebuilding. Rebuilding. Then I see a report. Doesn't sound to me like the Titans are planning to rebuild. We'll get to that coming up next here on the program. Stillman & Company, 615-737-1025, 1025, 106 for the game. Here to tell you about Window Nation. That's right. I love Window Nation. Window Nation takes great care of my home. They can do the exact same for you. I have Window Nation out to my home. And I said, tell me, do I need new windows in Window Nation? And they were being honest with me. They said no. They said, you do not need new windows. And I had a check ready to write them. And when that happened, I'm like, I'm so thankful to work with companies that I know I can trust. There are tons of companies out there that want to redo your windows, redo your home, do those. You can trust Window Nation. They'll give you a fair, honest price. And again, if you don't need it, they won't force it on you. But right now, if you do need it, buy 2 windows and you'll get 2 free. Get the energy efficient ones. They'll save you a bunch of money on your bills. Again, buy 2 windows and get 2 free, plus pay nothing for 24 months. And hurry up, because the sale ends October 31st. So schedule an in-home estimate right now at 866-90Nation or by visiting windownation.com. That's 866-90Nation, windownation.com.
Now, Brinker told me when I sat with him for the analytics piece, their goal is to have 8, 10, 11 picks a year. Well, where the hell are they getting 8, 10, 11 picks a year?
Start trading.
They got to start trading these guys. And my sense is that Rand's gun shy on these things. I mean, we haven't seen him trade down in 2 drafts. And outside of dealing Byard, they haven't. Last year was the year to really sell off.
Yep.
Now, I also heard, they weren't getting offers for much last year. And so this is another example of the fans think everybody here is worth something. When guys play poorly here, they think their value is, at the absolute peak of what they ever were.
That was PK. I do love this. This is just typical Titans talking out of both sides of their mouth. Chad Brinker sitting there saying, oh, we want 8 picks in every draft. We want 8 to 11 picks in every draft, which I actually think 11's a little too much, but I do think it's important to get multiple picks. If I was a GM, and I understand it's not for long and the fans want to win now, and if I was a GM, I think I'd keep playing this game where unless there was some guy that I had to have, I'd try to trade back on a consistent basis. Like I would try to be getting picks in the next year. I would try to do what John Robinson did successfully with that trade of the number 1 pick his first year. And then I would have traded back that 5th pick, which was Corey Davis. I would have traded back off that pick and gotten even more picks. And I would have just kept having future picks come in and in and in. So apparently the one name that everybody keeps circling when it comes to the Titans and it comes to the trade deadline, and the trade deadline is not for 21 days, which is worth noting. Again, they pushed it back, but it's also worth noting that it does feel like the NFL is starting to ramp up the trading. That we saw the Devontae Adams trades done, and he was already there. It's pretty crazy, right? Devontae Adams. We're hearing he may go to the Jets. We're hearing he's been traded to the Jets. We hear he's already there. We hear he already has his custom-made cleats. We already hear, the next thing we're going to hear is that DeAndre Hopkins, that Devontae Adams practiced last week for the Jets is what we're going to hear next.
Garrett Wilson changed his number in the offseason to clear up 17 for Devontae Adams, probably.
No, he did not.
No, I don't think so. But he did change his number
from
17 to 5. Maybe he heard through the grapevine.
That would have been something. So ESPN, they make you subscribe to ESPN Plus in order to read the real juicy stuff. And then they make ESPN Plus almost impossible to actually use, which is really disappointing. You got to log in every time and download. And so I'm just going to give you the gist of what Jeremy Fowler reported at ESPN regarding DeAndre Hopkins. Because when it comes to the Titans and trading off assets to get future picks, I think the Titans should do it. And I think I have 9 guys that I think the Titans can trade. And my guess is that probably 3 of them will be of interest to other teams. But there's no doubt that the guy at the top of the list is DeAndre Hopkins, especially when it comes to the Chiefs. And Jeremy Fowler is saying, that's great, but Tennessee doesn't seem interested in trading DeAndre Hopkins, and DeAndre Hopkins doesn't really seem interested in being traded. Now, Derrick Mason on the midday show went crazy when he heard that second part and was like, well, I guess DeAndre Hopkins doesn't want to win. DeAndre Hopkins is here to retire. He's not here to win. And I think there's some truth to that. I think DeAndre likes the lifestyle of Nashville, Tennessee, hosting writers' rounds and walking out with Morgan Wallen. And again, all crap that doesn't matter, which is a little disappointing that those are the kind of guys in your locker room, the guys that get haircuts during their media availabilities. Kevin Byard, Derrick Henry, get out. But this guy who doesn't care about winning, that's who we want there. But that's a DeAndre issue, not a Titans issue. Why are the Titans not interested in trading DeAndre Hopkins, if that is in fact true? And I don't know who's Fowler's guy in the building is, but it does seem like Fowler, to a certain extent, has replaced Diana Rossini in terms of the Titan reporting. So I'm just going to operate under the premise that that's true. And the Titans aren't in a rush to trade DeAndre Hopkins. Can I ask a question? How do you guys plan on getting better? You've got a GM and a president of football operations who in 2 years have busted, by my count on personnel moves, 18 out of 28 times. Busted. Like Calvin Ridley. Right now, that looks like a bust. You've got a head coach who is, again, God bless him, in over his head. You got a quarterback who stinks. And if there was anything to play for this year, they would have benched. And now you're not going to trade away the probably most tradable asset you have? Why? And the only explanation is they're actually going to try to win in 2024. That when Brian Callahan gets up there in front of the media and he starts talking about how I believe Will Levis can get better, I still have confidence in Will Levis. Today he was asked about what does he still see in Levis worth saving? And he talked about, well, his completion percentage is up. Yeah, because he throws the ball 1 yard behind the line of scrimmage every play. Congratulations. Never throws the ball down the field. Every time he does, it gets intercepted. So what we're going to do is we're going to throw it short every time. Congratulations. Will Levis is checking the ball down to the backs, and thus he's a has a better completion percentage than last year. Doesn't win any games. Doesn't throw for 100 yards, but he can check it down. That must be, if you're not interested in trading DeAndre Hopkins, I mean, that's got to be what it is. So I don't know where this organization is going, but the difference is between me and them is that while I know that I have no idea where they're going, they don't have any idea where they're going either. They just don't know it. Just like they thought they were going to be good this year, and me and Ian didn't. Like, we know it. They don't. That's the difference. Phone line driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com, 615-737-1025. Chad is in Lebanon. Going to kick us off today. Thank you for calling. Go ahead, Chad.
Yeah, I was wanting to just ask your opinion. What do you think about this play calling from this coach that we're supposed to have? Supposed to be a quarterback guru or whatever. I mean, every time we're doing good running the ball, he wants to throw the ball 8 times in a row. I mean, can we not get a better offensive coordinator or something to?
So you think it's not the players, you think it's the plays?
Well, I mean, that Will Levis, I mean, he let's call it for what it is. He sucks.
So, so you're saying now it's the players and not the plays?
Well, I mean, it's a little bit of both. I mean, if you got a coach that's calling these plays and he's gun shy, I mean, yeah, Will Levis turns the ball over. But
do you think if Bill Walsh were just calling the play? So let's say that Brian Callahan coaches during the week, because there is a difference between development and play calling. But let's say Brian Callahan coaches during the week, and on Sundays they resurrect Bill Walsh, they hand him the play sheet, and Bill Walsh calls the plays. Do you think that things would be significantly different around here if that's what happened?
No, probably not.
Okay, so then who cares? Chad, thank you. Who cares about the play calling? Like, yeah, I thought it was pretty sackless of Brian Callahan, early in the game to be throwing the ball, 2 yards behind they run the ball for 8 yards on first down, and then they throw a little dinky pass behind the line of scrimmage here. They throw a little dinky pass over there. And I'm tired of the whole trying to make Treylon Burks thing happen. I'm tired of that. So yeah, I got some qualms with the play calling. I don't love, but again, the issues with this team are the quarterback stinks. They don't have a right tackle. On defense, they don't get any turnovers. They don't sack the quarterback. They don't hit the quarterback. And they can't do anything right on special teams except kick. Those are the problems. And instead of, when you bring up the play calling and you say, well, I don't know if I like the play calling, I'm like, is the play calling the problem with this team? Because I got about 18 things on the list before I get to play calling. And I'll use that point. If you handed Bill Walsh the play sheet and you said you call the plays, do you think it would make a difference? And the answer is probably no. My issue with Brian Callahan right now is way deeper than play calls. My issue with Brian Callahan is, one, he does not stop pumping in the sunshine. And at some point, and it may have already happened, at some point, people are going to start tuning that out. Again, Brian Callahan going on the podcast and telling Mike Keith, it's a good thing Calvin Ridley got mad after the game and criticized my play calling. Whereas D Mace is on the midday show saying that wide receivers coach is trying to hold that room together and the cracks are starting to form. And if they keep losing, it's only going to get worse. That's my biggest issue. Brian Callahan, I don't think either he's too nice of a guy internally and he just doesn't believe he always believes the best case scenario, or he's pumping so much sunshine that, again, everybody there thinks they're good, even though they're 1-4 and can't beat backup quarterbacks and coaches that have already been fired. And then the other thing with Brian Callahan is it's not so much the play calling as much as it is the development of the quarterback, the fundamentals. Will Levis is not a better player this year than he was last year, and that's a huge concern. I'm not saying he has to be lighting it up, but he's not better this year than he was last year. More of your phone. Stillman and Company, 1025-1063 The Game. Want to tell you about my friends at Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. I love Hiller. I've had them out to my home 3 times this month. You heard that right. 3 times this month. And it is spooky season, and everybody is thinking about Halloween. This month, it's all treats and no tricks with my friends at Hiller. During their Spooky Good Fall giveaway, get a free Blackstone Griddle, Solo Stove, or Yeti Tundra Cooler with select home upgrades. Or enjoy $99 specials like an HVAC tune-up. Visit happyhiller.com today for all the details. That's Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Proud supporters of the Preds, the Vols, and Vandy. Hiller. Call the Happy Face Truck today.
better as a quarterback?
Yeah, I think he's seeing things well. He's understanding what's trying to get done. He's found completions at a bit of a higher rate, which has been good. Now we gotta find the balance of being aggressive still and being smart with the football, and then still completing the balls when they're there to be completed. And again, some exciting completions, but they're effective and efficient. But we certainly got to find ways to get the ball, down the field a little bit more, and let him do things that he's good at as well. So there's been some growth in some of the intermediate and underneath things and decision making, and then we still got to keep that aggressiveness with him as well.
Coach positive, Brian Callahan saying, hey, I mean, he's gotten better. The completion percentage is up. I have Will Levis's Pro Football Focus numbers in front of me, like his 2-year splits. Brian Callahan is technically right. Will Levis has a higher completion percentage at 66.4% to 58.4% last year, which is nice. But the yards per attempt have gone down 5.6 this year, 7.1 last year. That's bad. The touchdowns. Last year in 9 starts, he had 8. This year in 5 starts, he has 5. So that's roughly the same. Technically, I guess it's like 0.15 more per game or something like that. So that really hasn't changed. It's the same. The interceptions, this year he has 7. Last year he had 4. That's bad. His Pro Football Focus grade last year was 63.7. This year it's 44.9. Bad. His big time throws last year, 16. This year, 2. That's bad. And by the way, the percentage, last year, every 6 passes Will Levis had, according to Pro Football Focus, was what's called a big time throw. This year, 1.5%. He played 9 games last year. He's played 5 games this year. Last year, he had 14 worthy plays. This year, he has 7. The percentage is 4.5 last year, 4.4 this year. So he's actually, which is crazy, because we're like, he didn't turn the ball over that much last year. He's doing the same. And I said this last week when we talked about the wow plays that Will Levis doesn't have. And I said, what I think they did was they tried to coach out the stupid, but keep the great. And what they've done is they've coached out the great, but kept in the stupid. Because the turnover-worthy plays, 4.4 this year, 4.5 last year. And the receivers last year dropped the ball 8.6% of the time, Burks and Chig. And this year, because they throw it to Burks less, albeit they still throw it to Burks for whatever reason they decide to do that, the drops are down to 4.6%. So the drops have basically gone down in half, which might just be why his completion percentage is up anyway. But that's why Brian Callahan's still holding on hope to his quarterback that didn't throw for over 100 yards. And let me say this, I don't think that that's necessarily just a Will Levis problem. Callahan either. That being said, though, they're going to keep giving him more tries and hope that things are going to change. Let's go back to your phones as promised. Bruce has been waiting on the quarterback. Thank you for calling. Go ahead, Bruce.
Hey, I just wanted to comment. You said a little bit earlier that first play of the game, and it was the first play of the game. I'm pretty sure what you're talking about. We run for 8 yards, and I felt like, oh, wow. And then we throw one screen to the right, one screen to the left for a net negative -1 yard. And I'm like, okay, we're trying to get too conservative here. And why didn't you run it on second down, by the way? But
why do you care about that?
Go ahead.
Why do you care about what? Like the first guy called in and bitched about play calling. And I said, if you gave the play sheet to Bill Walsh, would it have made a difference? And he said no. And now you've called in and you're mad about the play calling too. Who cares about the play calling? This team sucks. Who cares? They can't get lined up on a kickoff. And you're talking about the play calling? That's no, goodbye, Bruce. Stop worrying about things that don't matter. It's like, I mean, can you believe Brian Callahan didn't run the ball on the second play they ran of the game? I'm like, that's like the 800th worst thing that he did that day. Like, seriously? That's what we're mad about? And then I say, well, you think it matters? No, it doesn't matter. Then don't call in and talk about it. I have to be honest with you guys. This is something that drives me insane. Drives me insane about Titan fans. I spent all day talking about this yesterday, about the fact that, again, around here, winning wasn't good enough. They were 7-5. Even though they traded A.J. Brown, and that was the single worst thing, apparently, according to some of you, that the Titans have ever. Somebody tweeted me and said the A.J. Brown trade is the worst trade in the history of the NFL. I'm like, it wasn't even the worst trade of that offseason. The Deshaun Watson to the Cleveland Browns trade was infinitely worse than you trading away a really good receiver. Sorry. But again, they still won 7 games, but it wasn't good enough. Since they fired John Robinson, they've won 7 games. He won 7 games in 12 tries, and that wasn't good enough. He got fired. You've won 7 games in, 28 tries? That's awful. But we're going to complain about the play calling? Like that's going to be the problem? At some point, when you're mad about this guy's play calling and you were mad about the last guy's play calling and you were mad about the guy before that's play calling, at some point you have to say, isn't it just that the players stink? Like the right tackle. The right tackle stinks. I told you that going into the year. I told you that last year. And it's like, no, we'll figure it out. No. You can't call plays when you don't have a right tackle. But that's what we're going to be upset about? Like, I am infinitely more upset about the fact that if this is true, that Jeremy Fowler's reporting DeAndre Hopkins doesn't even want to be traded. He doesn't want to go to a team that can win. What does that tell you about the guys that are on this team? Aaron, I'm worried about you because it says in the box that you want to talk about play calling. Go ahead.
Well, it's more about play design and timing. Every other game in the NFL that I watch, I see a coach call a play where a wide receiver is wide open or a draw up the middle is wide open, and it scores a touchdown. And we've been ahead. Like, just take Chicago, for example. We're ahead in the game.
Did you run a 3rd and 19 draw and it scored a touchdown on Sunday?
Yes. But we don't throw we don't throw. How many times does the Chiefs throw to a wide open receiver because of play design and play call? If we'd called a play on where Levis threw the flick 6, instead we were throwing to a wide open receiver, and scoring a touchdown, then we win the game. And now we're dominoes effect and things better happen. It's play design. We don't ever have any easy
So what
plays
play are
or
you
open
designing it for them to throw? Because they designed a touchdown to Nick Westbrook-Akine the other day. Was that a bad play design?
Yeah, but call it when it's important, when it's going to win the game or when it's going to extend your lead, when we're up by 7, instead of calling a play that gets, that forces a punt. Let's call a play that scores a touchdown.
Like the 3rd and 19 handoff up the middle that was a touchdown.
That wasn't designed to be a touchdown. I think that. That was designed to get a field goal. That was lucky. I don't think that was. You don't design that and like he's going to be wide open and score a touchdown. He just scored a touchdown on a play they're really going for the field goal.
So you think that the Chiefs' success is because of play design, not because of the players?
They don't have any. They're playing with 4 tight ends on the field.
Yes, and one of them is the best tight end in the NFL.
Maybe, but
and who's throwing the ball?
But still, it's
who did they draft in the first round? Who did they draft in the first round this year?
True.
They drafted Xavier Worthy in the first round this year. What's the one thing Xavier Worthy does? He runs fast. Well, they have the strongest and most accurate arm quarterback in the NFL. So what do? They say, Xavier Worthy, go deep. And what's he do? He launches it for a touchdown. Now, is Andy Reid a genius? I guess. Andy Reid's going to go in the Hall of Fame, and Andy Reid belongs in the Hall of Fame. I don't have any problem with putting Andy Reid in the Hall of Fame. He absolutely deserves to be in. He is a slam dunk first ballot, just like Bill Belichick, no doubt about it. But when it comes to Andy Reid, has anybody noticed that when Andy was in Philadelphia with a good quarterback, Donovan McNabb, that he was a good coach? And Philly, with Andy Reid, had good teams. They didn't have great teams. They had good teams. They didn't have a great quarterback. They had a good quarterback. When Andy had a good quarterback in Kansas City and Alex Smith, Andy had good teams. They didn't have great teams. They had good teams. When Andy had Patrick Mahomes, and Andy gets the credit, and again, this is what I said in the last segment about my issues with Brian Callahan and Will Levis. It's not about the play calling. It's about the development of the position. But again, with a great quarterback, a first ballot slam dunk Hall of Famer, now they have a slam dunk great first ballot Hall of Fame team. And what's happened is football's not that complicated. Just like I'm not convinced that the law is that complicated. I'm not sure that it's really that hard to be a lawyer. No disrespect to the lawyers out there. I'm not convinced that it's that hard to be a lawyer because there's a lot of people who are lawyers. Some are probably better than others. Some make more money than others. But again, I think a lot of us who graduated from college could have gone to a law school. And if we wanted to be a lawyer, could be a lawyer. My brother's a lawyer. But again, I don't think it's like the hardest thing in the world. I say this because I don't think football is the most complicated thing in the world. A lot of us just don't know anything about it because we haven't spent the time. We didn't go to law school. We didn't spend time as an associate at a firm. We didn't any of that stuff. But this idea that, oh God, our play designing is just so bad. Well, was Zach Taylor's play designing bad before they had Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and then it got good? Or is it that Burrow and Chase are good? This is why I think, again, guys are worried about all the wrong things around here. This is why I don't even care about changing the quarterback. I care about changing the GM and the president, the people who pick the quarterback. That's what I'm worried about. Because, again, I've said I don't care about 2024 anymore. The season's over. But 2025, if you have the same guys that are picking the same players that stink, then you're going to get the same results. And everybody here seems to just think it's a quarterback problem or think it's a play calling problem. 615-737-1025, which is our phone number, 615-737-1025. So, Will Levis, Chris Sanders is not going to join us today. He'll join us tomorrow because we do want to hear Will Levis's press conference, only because I was so ashamed of what Will Levis said about the shoulder thing the other day that I do wonder if Will Levis is going to be more accountable at his press conference. Stillman and Company, 1025, 106 through the game. Stillman and Company, Titans have Will Levis up at the podium.
And that to go out there and have the confidence and my mindset to just do what you're capable of. So that's what I'm making sure that I remind myself every day, regardless of what my box score stat line looks like, that I know who I am at the end of the day. Numbers or whatever else, whoever anyone says has to say, doesn't define me.
That you're building on, Will, what are some things that you look at in your numbers or game whatever and say, okay, I see a little bit of progress here and I can build on that?
I'd like to hit some more deep shots. I mean, I feel like my deep ball accuracy is one of my strong suits, and it just hasn't showed up on tape this year, and that's disappointing for me. So just finding ways to put myself in a better position to be able to get those balls off, and just making those plays. I'm not going to search for those and try to push and throw it up when it's not necessary, but the lack of completions down the field is gotta get that fixed.
What are some things that you're doing well right now, maybe even in relation to last year?
What am I doing well, you're saying?
Right, exactly.
I think I'm just seeing the field better. I think my understanding of defense last year, a lot of times I'm just like, all right, let's see how this goes, whoever comes open. But I really feel like I have, understanding of coverages that I'm seeing and thus what our best options are for those coverages. So just a better student of the game, I feel like, and I feel more prepared going out there on Sundays.
You're talking about the deep balls too. Your shoulder is healing fine, and you feel like that's not going to prevent you from some of those balls that you might want to be able to throw.
Yeah, I know we're working. It's going to be a process coming back from it. I'm in a pretty good spot, and but yeah, I just had to feel out how I came out of the game Sunday, and hopefully, get to a point where I feel really good going into this Sunday.
Brian said Monday that you and the whole team could probably use a little uplifting of confidence, though, in terms of seeing the fruits of your labor be validated, that the hard work translating into success on the field. What's kind of your perspective on that?
100%. I mean, it's important to celebrate the little victories, and we felt awesome after that Miami game, but that's really the only small victory we've had in a while. So it's huge for us to get wins and to stack that confidence. So hopefully we can get that done on Sunday, and we feel like a statement win, against a team like that would be great for our confidence.
You feel like that seeing fruits of the labor kind of would get you in a better rhythm and keeping you going as opposed to how sometimes the game has started well but not necessarily been able to sustain the momentum?
Sure. Yeah. No, I think anytime you see the results of something that you've worked so freaking hard at, makes you feel good, and it gives you more confidence, and going out there and doing it again. So we got a lot of things that we know we're capable of that we haven't just shown on game day. So, once we start getting those things on tape, gives us the confidence that we know we can do it, and we can do it at a higher and more consistent basis.
Calvin was 0 for 8 on Sunday, caught a third of the passes you guys have thrown his direction this season. How much of that do you think is you being off target?
I don't know off the top of my head. They definitely could have thrown some better balls to them here and there. But it's not something that we can point fingers at or whose fault it is. But he knows, I can be better. I know he can be better, and we all know we can be better at everything that we're doing. And we're all just trying to work as hard as we can to get those numbers up and trust that the connection that we know can be fruitful for us is gonna get there.
You had a chance to talk to Brian Robb, the guy.
I did. Yeah, I didn't even know that had happened until after the game. I obviously reached for the first down. I thought they were deliberating about if it was a first down or not. We're sitting there in the huddle like, what's going on? No idea that was going on at all. I didn't know if I had a first down. I pop up. I'm ready for third down. I don't know what happened behind me, and found out that it was B-Rob and felt for him. I know he had surgery today. Texted him the other day just to check in, hoping him speedy recovery.
Did you get together with Calvin after? Because Calvin was frustrated after the game. Was that a situation you guys pile out after that one?
Oh, we talked the next day. Yeah. But I think that he has every right in the world to be frustrated. I think we all can be frustrated, but we just can't let that, go into the next day. Like in the moment, it's okay to have those feelings, but we know like in order to get to where we want to, we can't let those feelings affect how we come to work and how we practice.
Is it not the kind of energy though you kind of want from a wide receiver? Wants the ball, wants to get the ball.
Yeah, I mean, I would be concerned if he was okay with how it's been going for him, and he's confident in his ability. He wants to go out there and ball. We know he's a baller, and we got to put the ball in his hands.
throwing as a quarterback when things aren't going well. How do you avoid the temptation to just say, well, let's go back to what got me here? Like, is it tough to not want to revert to what you used to do when the new stuff isn't working quite as well?
Not really. I mean, I'm just trying to, trust what I'm seeing, trust my coaching, just run the offense how it is, supposed to be run. And obviously that comes with whatever flair that the quarterback brings to it. And I'm going to just continue to get to know this offense and bring my flair to it when I feel appropriate. And, but like I said before, like this isn't a time for us to just start saying like, we got to just start saying screw it and go bombs away. We are playing within the offense still. And I'm going to keep trusting what I'm seeing and making the throws and plays that I feel are appropriate.
Sort of along those lines, Will, has the contrast between system last year and this been any more than you had anticipated?
No, nothing jarring. No, I mean, definitely new and different, but nothing that has made me think twice.
What's the comfort level as you've now got 5 weeks into the season essentially?
Like really high. Seriously, like the last couple of game plans, I know it's also been like carryover of stuff that we've had in previous game plans that we haven't come off the call sheet, but like obviously not really, but I feel like I could have gone out there on Thursday and played those games because we've just installed those plays. Like other than maybe a few game plan plays, like we already know all these plays that we can go out there and practice them without even an install meeting on them. So that's cool. Seeing the game plan and really only having to install a few looks for the game plan. So
When you rewatched that, did you feel like you checked down or went off too often?
the pass game you're saying? I thought for the most part I was taking the throws that are there. I put Josh in a tough spot, throwing in. I kind of 1-2-1'd him into a cloud corner, getting him sawed off. So that was tough. And then might have just missed the backside of a progression. But other than that, felt like did a decent job of just putting the ball in play. And just it's tough when you're in the rhythm of a game like that where you don't get as many opportunities as you would hope. I mean, I don't think there were even 2 total possessions in the third quarter. And we knew that it was going to be that type of game where it was going to be just like take the plays that are there, death by 1,000 cuts. Like they're not going to let you get too much over the top just with the style of defense they play. But we had a whole bunch of plays we would have loved to get off the call sheet, but sometimes the game doesn't play that way. And we got to be better with the opportunities that we have.
Is Josh Allen a guy that maybe you've admired from afar and looking forward to matching up against him?
Yeah, love his game, love him as a person. Done a lot of great things and has developed a lot throughout his time in the NFL. So, yeah, excited to see him on Sunday.
You still spending some spare time maybe working through the shoulder? You feel like you made a little progress in a week?
Yeah, I'm grinding my tail off in there. It's not like it's over type thing. It'd probably be something I'm dealing with here for a little bit, and hopefully we can grind through it and get me to a spot where I'm feeling 100%. So, but yeah, it's doing the best I can with everything that they're having me do.
Well, what stands out when you look at Buffalo's defense?
A lot of different looks. You don't know what you're gonna get. Like, they got everything. They're gonna disguise in all different types of ways that they can. Don't assume what you see pre-snaps what's gonna happen post-snap, and it's just gonna be a lot of just understanding where their safeties and their second level players are going to be at post snap to know what the coverage is and thus what our options are. So, yeah, they got great players across the board. I know their nickel and their safety are back from injury now too. So that's going to be big for them. And they've been, I think, 5th year in their system or something like that. So they know each other well. They know the ins and outs of it. They know the different, looks that they're looking for. So I'm excited to battle against them.
They talk a lot about the atmosphere there at the stadium. Like, what have you been told about, that stadium and those fans and, the Bills Mafia and all that?
Yeah, it's special. That's they make it a tough environment to play there. And obviously they've been rolling the last handful of years, and that fan base has been right by their side the whole way. I'm excited to get up there, being from the Northeast, feeling some cool weather for the first time this year. So that'll be nice. They got a winning culture up there. It's something that makes it exciting to go up and try to, beat them, put a frown on their faces.
Well, you've played in a lot of hostile road environments, obviously, in college, certainly.
All right, get this off. I can't listen to Will Levis talk about, we're excited to go to Buffalo and try to put a frown on their face.
Turn that frown upside down.
The Bills. Like the Bills. So, I got a big picture reaction, to what I just heard out of Will Levis, and I've got kind of a small picture reaction of what I just heard from Will Levis. That's next. Stillman and Company, 102.5 The Game. Stillman and Company, 1025, 1063 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. We are live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. So we played Will Levis's press conference. Ian, how much longer did it go on after Levis got, or after we dumped out of it? I couldn't listen to it anymore.
I don't know, maybe like 4 minutes.
4 minutes extra. Once they started talking about the Bills game, about how excited are you to go up to Buffalo and play in the hostile environment. And I was just waiting for someone to get back on track about how, bad he is and how bad things are and what's he going to do to make it better. And, the real questions. And instead they were asking about Buffalo and we want to go up there and, put a frown on their face and, it's going to be a tough place to play. Brother, you ain't putting a frown on anybody's face. I'm going to tell you that right now. So I listened to that press conference. I listened to Brian Callahan's press conference today. The tones are the only hope that I have that this organization is not living in an alternate reality. But the words certainly say we are not getting the message. Will Levis is still complaining about how his shoulder's not 100%. Well, if your shoulder's not 100%, then don't play. There are guys that say, hey, man, I can't help the team. I'm so hurt that I'm going to hurt the team by playing. And then there are meatheads like Baker Mayfield in 2021 who was drastically injured and was playing through it when he should have had the season-ending surgery, only to have everybody dump on Baker and think that he wasn't any good anymore. Sometimes you're hurting the team. I don't think this is the case. I think Will Levis is a loser, and I think he's making an excuse because excuses are for losers. So I have a small reaction to the press conference, which, Derrick texted me. People have texted into the text line saying, similar things, and that's that Will Levis has no confidence. Well, duh. Would you have any confidence if you did everything wrong every time you played? Your team is 1-4. The only game they won without you. The first game was 100% your fault. The second game was largely your fault. The third game, you lost to a guy who was your third string quarterback because you threw a pick six. The fourth game, you got hurt day one. And the fifth game, you threw for 95 yards. So I don't think he has any confidence. I don't think he should have any confidence. And when he says things like, I think my decision-making was good, again, either he's trying to tell himself that to make himself feel better, or he's a moron. And I think both are on the table here. But then there's kind of the big picture view here, which is that nobody in the locker room is going to hear Will Levis say something along the lines of, I think my decision-making was pretty good on Sunday. Or hear the shot that he took at Brian Callahan when he said that he wants to throw the deep ball more because he thinks the deep ball accuracy is one of the best things he does, which I'm not convinced of, by the way, but he wants to throw the deep ball more. On Sunday, Ian, by the way, it was his shoulder wasn't good enough to throw the deep ball. And today it's he wants to throw the deep ball more.
Maybe it was just that one throw.
Oh, yeah. Just on that one, it just flared up. But here's the problem. And I don't know what the truth is when it comes to the Titans and whether or not they're actually living in reality. I understand coaches get up at the podium and lie. I get it. Coaches say things all the time. Players say things all the time. Guys say, I'll never forget Mike Mularkey. In the 2016 season, the Titans had a 3-game stretch. They played the defending Super Bowl champion Denver Broncos. They went on the road to Kansas City, which was the number 2 seed in the AFC at the time. And then they played Jacksonville, who had just fired their coach. And before the Denver game and before the Kansas City game, Mike Mularkey said, we can play with anybody. We're not afraid of the Denver Broncos. We're not afraid of the Kansas City Chiefs. We can play with anybody. They won both games. The next week, they were playing crappy old Jacksonville, and he was up there saying, hey, that's a good team, and we better be worried about that team because that team, again, Mike Mularkey knows those two teams were good. That team was bad, but he's got to send the message to everybody that, hey, we can beat these guys, and hey, we can lose to these guys, and that's exactly what happened in both cases. But I didn't think that Mike Mularkey was detached from reality. In fact, I think he was embracing it, trying to downplay the narratives, the preconceived notions ahead of the game. When it comes to listening to Brian Callahan talk, when it comes to listening to Rand Carthon talk, Chad Brinker talk, Will Levis talk, we've talked about the constant sunshine pumping. Remember, Ian, in the summer when I kept talking about toxic positivity and everybody around here kept acting like that was such a crazy sentiment? Joe was like, I don't even know what that means. Toxic positivity. What does that mean? Toxic positivity. And I thought it was so disingenuous. Like, you guys have never been around somebody in your life who does not live in reality. We all know people in our personal lives that have things that come out of their mouth that are so devoid of the truth, and they don't know it. And I'll say this about Mike Vrabel and John Robinson when they were running the team. They weren't the nicest guys in the world when things weren't going well, but they never just blatantly ignored reality. Like, it was beneath Vrabel to get up there and pretend like it was a good thing. Packers, it actually was just a really good play by their player. Okay. But maybe everybody over there is just that stupid. Maybe it's not this sunshine pump to sell season tickets. Maybe it's not this sunshine pump to try to run one over on the owner because, again, the owner's crazy and you don't want to be the person that's in her line of fire. Maybe these people actually believe some of this stuff. And that's just as concerning as anything else. There are a lot of people out there that think the earth is flat. But I don't want the person that thinks the earth is flat to be in charge of our sciences. You see what I'm saying? And so until the Titans start acting like a team that needs to be desperate, until the Titans start acting like a team that has gotten a whiff of the coffee, until the Titans stop getting up there every day and acting like everything's good, everybody's playing great, everybody's mindset's in the right spot. I mean, Callahan was up there today talking about how Calvin Ridley's comments after the game on Sunday were a good thing. Yeah. You know, I think it was a good thing when T.O. got kicked out of training camp with the Philadelphia Eagles and went and did sit-ups in his front yard, his driveway. I think that was a positive thing. You know, I think it was positive when Bill Belichick and Tom Brady were feuding so much that Tom Brady decided to go to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think that was a good thing for the Patriots. How have they done since then? Oh, yeah, they suck. I think it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing that the New York Jets are letting Woody Johnson call the shots his way now. See, you can say anything that's bad is a good thing, but it doesn't make it true. And I have this soft spot when it comes to society, this really strong disappointment in our society nowadays, because there are a lot of people who believe things that are really clearly, blatantly not true. And they believe it not because they've been enlightened by something that the rest of us haven't been, but they believe it because they want to believe it. And for those of us that, again, are at least remotely self-aware, that frustrates people like me on a consistent basis. But I go back to, again, the toxic positivity and the sunshine pumping. I know Rand's full of it, and I know Chad Brinker's full of it. I thought Brian Callahan was equally as full of it, but he may just be stupid enough to believe some of this stuff. I don't know. But when the organization gets up there all the time and tells you things that, again, are not reflected on Sundays at all, why should there be any hope that they're going to turn this around and change? You know, I'm excited for the game on Sunday because they're going to play Buffalo, who's a good team with a good quarterback. And this isn't Malik starting for them. And this isn't an environment where the Titans will be able to run their snap counts and Leroy Watson won't have to look at the football and actually play in a tough. I mean, this is going to be a loud environment. It's going to be raucous. They smell blood in the water. They're going to go for the kill. And I'm actually excited to see Buffalo do it because I'll be excited to see what creative ways the Titans come trying to turn that one around. But, I mean, I'm sorry. Where we sit right now with this operation and organization, I mean, these guys have no shame with some of the things they say. Like, they have no shame. Like, there's certain things that I don't want to admit to, but ultimately, there's a certain level of honesty that I can't let it go. Like, I'm sorry, I gotta own it. And the Titans have to be the least accountable organization I've ever seen. Remember when Rand Carthon was saying this offseason, this feels like my first draft. Well, that's great, but it's not. Like, again, like we're talking about reality. It sounds great, but it's not. Rand Carthon didn't draft Will Levis. Yeah, that sounds great. That's a really great point, except for the fact that it's not true. But again, I mean, I think they'll just, and that's what happens when they don't do any interviews. They don't talk to any serious people. They sit down in podcast land and talk about how great everything is and show us, the epic Western Titan, which, by the way, I have not watched the coach's TV show. The epic Western Titan of the week better be the freaking ball boy that got carted off the field on Sunday. T's and P's to the ball boy, who's like 87 years old, by the way, for a ball boy. And he's wearing his gloves and everything. Poor guy. But again, this organization's such a gong show, and I don't even know what to make of it anymore. 615-737-1025, Stillman and Company, 1025, what is the game?
you don't want overall frustration to creep in on your team with this having happened multiple times, because it could. But is there a balance of anger that you kind of do want to see out of your football team at a moment like this?
Yeah, anger is probably the wrong word.
I was trying to think of a better one.
I think frustration
Okay.
is probably more apt. I think you felt it from the guys in their post game in the locker room, some of the things that got said, and that all that tells me is that we got a bunch of guys that care and want to win, and they're frustrated by being so close, but yet not being able to get it done. And it's a team that I think is fully capable of getting it done, and that's I think what makes it frustrating. It's we do a lot of things well for a lot of the game, and we have to find a way to make the game turning play, which we have yet to be able to do in these tight games in the fourth quarter. We haven't scored many points on offense. We've given up points on defense. Our fourth quarter point differential is what looks like a 1-4 team would look like, and that's where we have to find a way to be better. Is where do we find that play that turns the game? Because we are close and we are doing a lot of good things that I feel very confident about, things that are really positive. We've improved week to week in a lot of areas, and the unfortunate part is we don't have results and outcomes to show for it. But there's a lot of things that are going in the right direction, and things that I feel very confident about. And so to see guys frustrated after a game, yes, that makes me feel good that we got a bunch of guys that care and want to win and are willing to do what it takes to figure it out.
When's Brian Callahan going to say, no, it's not good to have the $90 million receiver criticizing the play calling after the game? When's that going to happen? When's the coach going to get up there and say, hey, what we're doing is inexcusable and guys are going to have to earn their spots? How many more of these rear end spankings do they have to get? But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They'll get up there after every game and every day and say, oh, it was a good thing that we lost that game to that backup quarterback. It was a good thing that Malik Willis came in here and absolutely deboned our rear ends. It's a good thing that this happens here in Titanland. We may have to start pumping the toxic positivity mix. We may have to start pumping that back in there. May have to get that back in the rotation a little bit. Phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Bill is up next on the program. Bill, go ahead.
Hey, Jared. Thanks for taking my call. I listen to you all the time.
Thank you, sir.
I got a couple of facts I'd like to point out just real quick. You made a comparison.
Are these real facts or are these Titan facts?
No, these are Titan facts and real facts. You made a comparison.
Those are mutually exclusive. I'm sorry, but Bill, those are mutually exclusive. Titan facts aren't real. Real facts are real.
Okay, the word got real facts in.
Okay, good. Go.
Oh, here a little while ago, you made a comparison with Andy Reid and Alex Smith and Patrick Mahomes. And one of the terms that Andy Reid always used with Patrick Mahomes was he teachable. Okay, so when they first got Patrick Mahomes, he wasn't the greatest quarterback of all time.
Right.
Is he teachable? So what happened, and I'm going to, everybody's taking it and everybody's feeling it, and I'm just going to go ahead and say it. They never should have gotten rid of Tannehill because it was too soon for Levis. He didn't have enough training to go in to take the spot that he wanted. Okay, they're realizing that now.
Well, I mean, Will Levis is 25 years old. So at some point, Bill, thank you for your call. I mean, he's 25 years old. At some point, Will Levis has to play in the NFL. Anthony Richardson, I think, is an example of bad management, where the Indianapolis Colts drafted Anthony Richardson with the 4th overall pick. And that's what I would have done if I was the Colts. I would have drafted Anthony Richardson. But from the second the Colts drafted Anthony Richardson, they did everything the exact opposite of what I would have done. And considering that Anthony Richardson right now is not very good, I'd like to think that my way would have worked better. But my plan was, because he was 21 years old and had a handful of starts under his belt in college, I would have sat him on the bench. I would have run to the podium and said, well, I probably would have re-signed Matt Ryan because, Matt Ryan's a true cerebral veteran, whatever, but Gardner Minshew's fine. Gardner Minshew is our starting quarterback. And I would have left it that way. And I would have gone into the season with Sam Ehlinger as the backup, and I would have deactivated Anthony Richardson. And again, this is where expectations, I think, are really important to understand. And the Titans do a terrible job of setting expectations. But if the expectation is this guy is so raw, but has so much talent that we are going to take this slowly, and you have to understand that is our plan, fans get on board with that pretty quickly. It's crazy, but it is the truth. The problem is the Titans, again, give people unreal expectations time and time again. And when it comes to Will Levis and the comparison I'm making to Anthony Richardson, Will Levis is 25 years old in his second year in the NFL. He's got to play. Like, there's no, we should have brought back Tannehill for one more year. And with no right tackle, Ryan Tannehill's going to win you 8 games. You'll be picking 12th. And what's that going to do for you? Will Levis had to play. And he's played and he's stunk. But I mean, I'm not sure there were any facts in there. Let me give you an example of the real facts versus Titans facts. I think this is bullcrap. Like, I think this guy's being sarcastic with this text. But let's pretend he's not. Daniel says in the text line, Jared, you seem to be ignoring the fact that we are 5 or 6 plays away from being 4-1 right now. This team can compete, but they need to gel and finish better. Again, he said fact. It is a fact that the Titans are 5 or 6 plays away from being 4-1. Is that a fact? Or is that your feeling? And again, Titans facts. Titans facts are feelings. They're vibes. They're nothing you ever find in the box score. But as great as it is, Jeffrey Simmons, to say that it's not all about sacks, maybe it'd be nice if you did get some sacks. Maybe it would be nice if you did hit the quarterback. Just occasionally. Is it something to ask for? Because this may be crazy, but box score stats do matter. You know who has really good box score stats? Derrick Henry has really good box score stats. You know why? Because Derrick Henry's really good. That's why. Titans facts are Derrick Henry wouldn't have done that with our offensive line. Derrick Henry did it with a lot of offensive lines. And again, that's a real fact. By the way, you could have drafted guys the Ravens have. Roger Rosengarten plays right tackle, 2nd round pick out of Washington, 62nd overall. But you took a run-stuffing D2 who doesn't hit the quarterback. But Jared, did you see Brian Baldinger's breakdown of Tavondre Sweat? Yes. A feeling. Wow, look at this. He'll be good. 0 quarterback hits. A fact. We got to stop with the Titans facts and get with the real facts. 615-737-1025, which is our phone number, 615-737-1025 here on our program. Now, I know everybody thinks that I love firing coaches and firing general managers and whatnot. And yet, all I ask for is a justification as to why I should not want to fire coaches and general managers when I want to fire them. We'll get to that next. Stillman & Company, 102.5 The Game.
but are you fitting your vision?
No, I feel really good about the work that we put in. I had a couple interviews yesterday, and for me personally, it goes without saying. I think we've had a hell of an off season. I hope you can hear the guys. Whatever's going on behind me,
Oh
I
yeah.
can't even see.
Well, what's going on is that there was an interception, and someone is carrying it all the way to the house. Luke Gifford taking it in. The Nebraska Flash, touchdown Titans.
And so I think we've had a hell of an off season. It's probably been understated.
That was Rand Carthon during the Sirius XM NFL training camp tour doing an interview during practice. Saying, hey, there's something good going on back there. What happened? Oh, it's an interception. Oh, yeah. Hey, wow. This is just me. Maybe Rand should have watched the practice to see what was going on. Maybe that's why Rand was so positive this offseason, feeling about, Will Levis quarterback, because he wasn't watching practice. So he didn't see the interceptions that were thrown in practice. Remember when they played the Seahawks, Ian, and they had a 2-minute drive, and on the first play, Will Levis threw an interception, and I was like, guys, red flag. And they were like, no, they'll figure it out. It'll be fine. Okay, that's fine. Whatever. So I find the Titans right now to be a complete and total nightmare. Like, I'm just going to be honest with you. I don't enjoy doing this. I don't enjoy this season. I miss, and I'm a Titan fan, so I'm going to use the word we here for a second when describing the Titans. It used to be fun when they used to win. I was going to say we, but I just couldn't bring myself to it. It used to be fun. Like, it used to be fun. Monday Night Football against the Buffalo Bills, and Derrick Henry carries the ball, and they get a stop on the 1-inch line against Josh Allen, and it used to be fun. Well, those days are long gone. You're a 9-point dog. It doesn't get much bigger than that in the NFL. So I just want this nightmare to end. But this morning, I'm listening to Robbie and Rexroad, a very popular program, and I think at times, mainly Robbie, a well-thought-out program with some crazy ideas, but, I think they have a decent understanding of things. And then they were talking about Rand Carthon and whether or not he's going to stay the general manager of the Titans. And they each gave it a percentage. Joe Rexroad says 3% chance that Rand Carthon gets fired at the end of the year, meaning a 97% chance that Rand Carthon returns as general manager for next year, which again, I lump them together, Brinker and Carthon, because I actually think it's more likely than not that Carthon gets fired. He's made the scapegoat for this year, and they implement Brinker in as kind of the full-time decision-making guy, and he'll sell Amy some more snake oil for another year, and then he'll get fired. But again, Rand, 97%, according to Joe Rexroad. Paul Kaharski says 6% chance Rand gets fired. So 94% that they think Rand Carthon's coming back. Robbie gave it a 25% chance that Rand gets fired, which means 75% chance that Rand's coming back. But even while I think that's ridiculous, at least he's in more of the ballpark. And here was kind of the explanation, because I'm trying to figure out, what is the defense? Like, what is the defense of keeping the band together that, again, gets worse and worse every single week?
If you're Amy and you have invested all this into this, and I mean, it's a big change now, right? And yeah, a little bit of a half measure change maybe last year. Now it's the full thing. And you're really going to entertain starting over? I can't. Especially with all the criticism she has, to me, rightfully received about rashly making decisions in the last few years. I think I'm 2%, and I feel like that's 25% is wild. Wild, Robbie.
Have you seen her the last 2 years?
I know. But again, that's part of my reasoning.
So the only reason, according to Joe, that Rand Carthon should stay is because Amy has been criticized for bad moves in the past. That's not a very good reason, is it? Now, I think that there's a chance Joe might be right. Like, I think the reason that nobody got fired on Monday is because everybody's made jokes about, oh, Amy's going to be so mad she's going to fire somebody. Same reason why nobody got fired after Malik Willis came in here and beat them. But what progress am I seeing from the Titans? Like, what progress am I seeing that if the season were to end today would justify investing more in the guys that are currently calling the shots? That's the only question I'm asking. Like, what justification exists? And again, I want real facts, not Titan facts. If the best reason to not fire somebody is you have a reputation for firing people, so don't fire this guy, that's not good enough for me. If you have examples of things that are good, and I mean consistent examples, because I'm sure somebody will say, well, they drafted J.C. Latham, Jared, and Rustin Webster drafted Taylor Lewan. It doesn't mean that the Titans needed another 6 years of Rustin Webster. So, I mean, I just want logic to be used around here. And I know I'm loud, and I know I'm crass, and I know that people always want to hear good things until they lose, and then they're okay with hearing bad things. I remember this with the Predators when David Poile and John Hines, man, they were hanging on. And the Preds fans said, no, Jared, we believe it. I trust David Poile more than you. And then after enough losing, it was like, yeah, no, it's time to move on. But at least David Poile had won a little bit. You know, he's in his career before completely falling off the hill. This is just nothing's good. Everything's bad. They say everything is good when in reality, everything is bad. And I'm being told by Joe Rexroad, the reason that the Titans have to keep the group together that assembled this group where their $90 million receiver has 9 catches through is because she shouldn't do it again. Are you ever going to win anything that way? I remember the late Mark Howard was on the radio talking about firing Ken Wisenhunt right before they did it. And he was like, they're not going to fire Ken Wisenhunt because he's in year 2 of a $25 million contract over 5 years. And I believe that. Like, I believed that. I believed that. I truly believed that they were not going to fire him because the Titans were considered a cheap organization and they owed Ken Wisenhunt too much money. So we were going to be stuck watching that bullcrap. And Amy, thank God, fired him. And the next year they had a competitive team. The next year. So again, if the reason to keep somebody is, well, we gave him a contract, so we got to do it. That's not a good enough reason. If the reason to keep people are, well, you know, they got criticized for firing the guys who won, so now they shouldn't fire the guys who lose, that doesn't make any sense either. Like, I'm sorry. It just, there's no excuse for the Titans to have spent the money they spent this offseason, to have said the things that they said this offseason, and for them to be this bad. There's no excuse for it. And yet, if Joe has his way, we'll get to sit through at least another year of this. And if you had to ask me, Jared, what do you think is going to happen? You know, big picture with the Titans. I would tell you that I think they're going to be bad this year. And I think they're going to be bad next year because even though I think there's a really good chance they will fire Rand and make Chad Brinker kind of the unquestioned guy, even though Diana Rossini says he's the decision maker there now, I think he's also a dope. So I don't think that that's going to change much. And so they'll be bad next year. And then maybe in 2026, we can hope that they'll have a chance. Hope. That is not exciting to me. It's not. But that's how they operate, right? They fire the guys who win because they weren't winning enough. and they keep the guys who lose because they were embarrassed that they fired the guys who were winning. And Joe Rexroad thinks that's the right thing to do. 615-737-1025 on our program, Stillman and Company, 1025, The Game. And let me tell all the fine folks out there, because I do need to do some of these liners here, to join me, Chris, and Derrick live at Twin Peaks in Cool Springs this Sunday for the award-winning pregame show from 9:30 to 11:30 ahead of the Titans and the Bills. The award-winning pregame show is presented by Parman Tractor and Equipment, Sundeck Nashville, Sloan's Motorcycle ATV, and award-winning Blue Note Juke Joint and Blue Note Crossroads Bourbon. And tune into 102.5, 106 through The Game this Saturday for Vandy football, where the Commodores take on Ball State with pregame beginning at 4:30 on 94.9 The Fan and moving to 102.5 The Game following the Preds. Vanderbilt football kicks off at 6 o'clock. Coverage also available on the 102.5 The Game app and at thegamenashville.com.
I know there's always urgency for you guys, but is that increased this week, just given the facts of your record and two good teams coming up on the road?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, and I don't mean disrespect by it. Our urgency never really changes. It's something that you have to have in the NFL if you want to have a chance in every game you play. There can't be any deviation from you can't get up for 1 week and then think it's going to be easy the next week. It's a consistent work ethic, a consistent urgency every day. And you have to keep your focus small during the season because there's so much happening outside and there's other things that go on in the league, and you have to sort of really narrow your focus to each team you play every week. And our guys do a great job of that. I love the way they practice. I love the intensity they come to work with. Even today, and look, we're 1-4. It's not fun. You know, there's the guys want to be in the mix and they want to win games, and so do I. And so it's a credit to them that they come into work and work the way they do. Because it's challenging when you're fighting like we are to get out of a hole. That usually makes for an edge and an urgency that is different than if you're 4-1. You have the same urgency but you're playing for something different. We're trying to fight our way out of a hole right now, and the urgency still remains the same.
Brian Callahan talking about, hey, we got to have urgency with our record and with our. Texter says, Levis and Skoronski said today's practice was bad and they could have had better energy. Are the players throwing in the towel because they know Levis stinks? It's probably not just Levis. They probably know the whole team sucks. And they're going to Buffalo. And they know they're staring 1-6 in the face. And I love Brian Callahan. Man, the energy they came in with the building today. Oh, yeah, I'm sure that's great. I keep thinking back to Titan facts versus reality. And I kept thinking about, Berg Nihill's the team's president and CEO. He doesn't theoretically do football stuff. That's not really his business. The stadium is kind of more his business. But he did a radio interview on the other station during training camp about Brian Callahan. And he said, we thought when we hired him that we got the right guy, but now we know we crushed it. And I remember hearing that and thinking, how do you know that? I think Barry Trotz is doing a good job for the Predators, though the Predators right now not playing very well. I think Barry Trotz is doing a good job, but I don't know that he's going to lead them to the cup. I don't know that. I don't know that my expectation is make it to the second round of the playoffs this year, but I don't know that they're going to do that. And I'm not assuming they're going to do that. But the Titans love to take assumptions and say, this is what's going to happen. And then it doesn't happen. And they say, why did you expect us to have this happen? And I'm not letting them off the hook this year. And so if they're sitting there saying we're practicing bad because we suck. Well, who could have seen that coming? Derrick's only talked about it for the last 3 weeks about them losing the team. Titans in Truth. Chris is up next here on our program. Chris, go ahead.
What's up, Jared? I need to air out my grievance right now when it comes to this team. And I just need
You got 1 minute, so make it quick.
I'll make it quick. Am I asking too much for one to win? I want to win. Instead of the loser mentality that I keep seeing from everybody, okay, we should just go ahead and go for the draft pick. I'm thinking the thing is simple. Take out the mistake waiting to happen, who has made mistakes in Will Levis, put in Mason Rudolph, and let's see if we can go win some games. I don't think I'm asking for too much. Am I asking for too much to want to win?
I think you're asking for the wrong thing. And I'm going to tell you why. Because let's just call a spade here, Chris. They're not going to win this week, right?
Most likely.
Okay, they're not going to win next week, right?
Probably not, but with Mason Rudolph, I think you at least have a fighting chance.
I don't.
With Levis, absolutely not.
The Dallas Cowboys just got skunked by that Lion team. And even though Jerry blew it in free agency this year, I think we can say that Dak Prescott's probably better than your team. So, your defense is ranked number 1. Woo! You don't get any turnovers and you don't get any sacks. So I have a hard time believing you're going to go to Detroit and beat the Lions. So now you're 1-6. So maybe you beat New England. So, okay, that's 2 wins. Are you going to beat the Vikings, Chris?
Well, with the way that they're playing,
are you gonna beat the Texans?
Again, with Mason, we have a better chance.
But are you going to beat the Texans?
All of those we lose.
Okay.
Levis, all of those.
And are you going to beat Jaden Daniels? I mean, you see what I'm saying? So now you're at like 10 losses before we even get to, well, they could win the Jacksonville game. So do you want to win?
That's not even guaranteed.
I agree, but do you want to win the other Colts game? Do you want to win the Jacksonville games? Do you want to win the New England game? Do you want to win those games? And now you're picking seventh. And if this were last year, you don't get Jaden Daniels. But if you lose these games, then you get to pick Jaden Daniels. Well, what, don't you want Jaden Daniels next year?
You still may not be in position for Sanders or Cam Ward, at least from one of the latest mock drafts, and I know there's a bunch of them. But the way that it's going, you're picking fifth or sixth, you still might be on the outside picking Sanders and Ward. So that means all of that losing for nothing.
But the reason that a mock draft right now, Chris, thank you for your call. The reason a mock draft right now says that you're picking fifth or sixth is because there's a lot of one-win teams out there, and they have not had their bye weeks yet. So, like, you've had your bye week, so you're behind. You're 1-4. There's some 1-5 teams. I think New England's 1-5. Jacksonville is 1-5. I believe, I'm trying to think who else is 1-5 that's in that group of bad teams. I mean,
Jacksonville, where are they? Did you say
Yeah, I said New England and Jacksonville. And one of those teams has to win this week. Cleveland. One of those Jacksonville, New England teams has to win this week because they play in London.
And Carolina.
So, Carolina probably not going to win any more games because they're terrible. But my point is that, like, you're behind those teams because you've had a bye and they haven't. So they're 1-5, you're 1-4. But in reality, I think you have to be the worst team in the NFL because I don't think any other team has played all of the backup quarterbacks that you've played and still lost. New England, they're out there losing, but they're losing to starting quarterbacks. Jacksonville is losing, but they are losing to starting quarterbacks.
Although I think New England did lose to Huntley.
Is that who played quarterback for Miami in that game?
Yeah.
Boy, that number one pick's going to be on the line when the Titans play New England.
Might be, yeah.
Go Pats. Larry's up next. What's up, Larry?
Hey, I guess I want to agree more with the last caller with Chris. And my point is this: if I was Callahan, I would want to know that my system works. Just personal pride, and to keep the locker room. So put the backup quarterback in for 3 games and just validate that his system works. I don't have any confidence in his system or in him right now.
Yeah, well, that seems kind of selfish, doesn't it? Like you want to, I want to win because I want to make sure my system works. Seems kind of selfish, right?
Well, a little bit, but I mean, for the owner that's paying his salary, I don't know that his system works.
Well, again, I would think that you'd be better off with Jaden Daniels. Thank you for your call, Larry. I would think that you'd be better off with Jaden Daniels of this year or whoever than you would be by, hey, the system works because we beat the Patriots. Way to go. But I could be wrong. Okay. I did this today. We've got a game show. I've always wanted to be a game show host. I think I'd be pretty good at it. We've got a game show that I want to play. We'll do it next. Stillman & Company, 102.5-1063 The Game. And let's go ahead and give away those tickets that we've got to give away. Let's give away those tickets to the Nashville Ballet. That's right. Be caller 5 and you'll win a 4-pack of tickets to the Nashville Ballet's performance of Dia de los Muertos at the Martin Center for the Nashville Ballet on Saturday, October 19th at 11 a.m. How was that for a pronunciation right there? 102.5 The Game. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3. The Game streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. We are live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. I have always wanted to be a game show host. I mean, it's not like it's a dream of mine or anything, but like I could do it on the side. I could host, probably not smart enough to host Jeopardy, but I could host Wheel of Fortune. The one I'd really want to host is The Price is Right. I think I'd be pretty good at that. And I said on Friday, if you lose to this crap Indianapolis team without their best offensive player, Jonathan Taylor, without their best defensive player, DeForest Buckner, without their best corner, Juju Brents, without their starting quarterback, Anthony Richardson, if you lose at home coming off a bye to a team that has the 32nd ranked defense in the NFL, then we have to start asking hard questions around here. And whether or not Will Levis is the guy is not a hard question to answer because you know the answer. But the questions that have to be asked are, so are you going to let the same guys that have put you in the mess you're in right now, are you going to let them try to get you out of it? And you know you're so bad that you're going to have the first, second, third, fourth pick. Are you going to let the same guys that have dug you in this hole try to get you out of it? Well, Jared, that's not fair. And that's no. Everything's on the table when you lose a game like Sundays. When it's not a fluke and you lost to Malik Willis, a guy you traded away for a bag of footballs a month before. Yeah, we got to have these discussions. And one thing I hear the pushback on is it's not their fault. And again, I lump them together, Rand Carthon and Chad Brinker. They've both been here for 2 years. Chad Brinker was here for the draft last year. Rand Carthon was here for the draft last year. Chad Brinker was here for free agency this year. Rand Carthon was here for free agency this year. I'm not doing is it Vrabel's fault? Is it Rand's fault? Is it John's fault? Is it Mike's fault? Is it Rand's fault? Is it Chad's fault? I'm not doing that. We're putting them all together. The committee, the collaboration, the consortium, whatever you want to call them. So let's do this. Instead of saying, well, Jared, they drafted J.C. Latham, as if that's reason to let them pick the next quarterback when they picked Will Levis, let's just go over all the big moves. And let's do it in game show fashion.
It's time for a bust.
I don't think the ball bounced our way.
Or hush.
Personally, it goes without saying. I think we've had a hell of an offseason.
Bust or hush.
All right, let's play Bust or Hush right here on 102.5 The Game. We'll take a player. We'll go over whether or not he was a bust or a hush. And if he was a bust, we'll hear our voice tell us that he was a
bust.
And if he was, in fact, a good player, and this was a good decision, and they make the Titans better, we'll tell Jared Stillman to
hush.
All right, let's start off the top. 2023 free agency. Andre Dillard, number 1. Well, Andre Dillard's probably the worst free agent signing in the history of the NFL. And the Titans, because Deshaun Watson, that wasn't a free agent signing. And the Titans are still on the hook for $3 million this year for Andre Dillard. Andre Dillard was benched midway through last year for Jalen Duncan, who was also terrible. We'll get to him in bust or hush. But I think it's fair to say Andre Dillard.
Bust.
Number 2, Arden Key. Arden Key did get off to a hot start. If you remember the first game against the New Orleans Saints, he had 2 sacks. Last year, he had 6 sacks. This year, started the year under the cloud of a potential NFL suspension, but he beat the odds and has been available for the Titans this year, has recorded 0 sacks. He does have 9 tackles so far in the season. Sorry, hate to say it, but Arden Key is, well, when you don't sack the quarterback, you are a
bust.
Sean Murphy Bunting, come on down. He's up next year of the 2023 free agent. Sean Murphy Bunting did play last year, did have an interception of Lamar Jackson last year. But there's a reason why you went out this year and spent all the money on the corners. There is a reason that you weren't interested in bringing Sean Murphy Bunting back. Hate to say it, but he's not even with the team anymore. Sean Murphy Bunting.
Bust.
Daniel Brunskill at right guard. Ran Carthon brought him in from San Francisco. He knew him. In San Francisco, he played some right tackle. He played some right guard. He played some center. He played some left side of the line. He was versatile. He was a Mike Vrabel guy. He played through injury after injury. How can you doubt this guy? But with the man, big coach, Bill Callahan coming in here to take over, Daniel Brunskill makes $3.5 million, and they won't let him play right guard. They won't let him play right tackle. They won't let him play left guard. Right now, he's the backup center. I hate to say it, but one subpar year and 1 year as the backup center when you can't even be the second backup right guard. You can't even be the second option at right tackle. Can't even be the third option at right tackle. Daniel Brunskill.
Bust.
Hate to say it. Azeez Al-Shaair. Azeez Al-Shaair last year did lead the Titans in tackles. He was available throughout the course of the season, good in coverage. And he hit the bag at the end of the year, signing a big contract with the Houston Texans for $11 million. Last year, Azeez Al-Shaair was a team captain, and Azeez Al-Shaair is a team captain now with the Houston Texans. I got to give him credit. I mean, I hate to say it, but even though I wasn't an Azeez guy, got to say Azeez Al-Shaair.
Hush.
That was a good one. Luke Gifford. Remember when they signed him? This is going to be big on special teams. I'm not sure I've noticed Luke Gifford do anything except intercept a pass in practice while Rand Carthon was doing an interview when he should have been watching practice. Luke Gifford, who they've cut, then they added the practice squad, then they signed him again, and still I don't know if I've ever seen him do anything in a Titans game. Luke Gifford is a
bust.
And finally, DeAndre Hopkins. Come on down. DeAndre Hopkins, the last piece of the puzzle in 2023. Mike Vrabel said, we will get receivers out there, and Mike Vrabel kept that promise when the Tennessee Titans signed DeAndre Hopkins to a 2-year contract. DeAndre Hopkins was their number one receiver last year, and even though they're paying Calvin Ridley way more money, DeAndre Hopkins is still probably their number one receiver this year. He's also their number one trade piece, which you would have to assume after they're 1-6, they're going to make the decision to go ahead and trade DeAndre Hopkins, but not so fast, says ESPN. But given the fact that DeAndre is making about $13 million a year and he's playing like a solid number 2 receiver in the NFL, got to say with DeAndre Hopkins,
hush.
2024 free agency. The Titans, they let Derrick Henry go. He's only leading the NFL in rushing. He's only leading the NFL in touchdowns. He's only leading the NFL in yards per game at 117. But they added Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard right now is 18th in the NFL in yards, and he has scored a couple of touchdowns, but he is the best player on the offense. And it does seem like week in and week out, the one guy who is producing is Tony Pollard. So even though it's not an improvement on Derrick Henry, I do have to say Tony Pollard.
Hush.
Lloyd Cushenberry. Boy, and you think we're hard on them? We didn't put Aaron Brewer on the 2023 list. We didn't put Tier Tart on the 2023 list because they were already on the team. But Lloyd Cushenberry is the 3rd highest paid center in the National Football League. Again, free agency is what free agency is. But he has a Pro Football Focus grade of 53.8. If the bar is being better than Aaron Brewer, then he surpassed it. If the bar is being a good NFL center, he is not. I hate to say it, Lloyd Cushenberry so far, as is with the rest of the offensive line for the most part, a
bust.
Calvin Ridley at wide receiver, $90 million, $50 million guaranteed. You stole him from Jacksonville. Remember, Jacksonville wanted him back, but the vibe here was immaculate. His wife is all the way from Huntsville, Alabama. This was the perfect fit. He chose the Titans because of the vibes, not because of the money, but because of the vibes. He has 9 catches. He's already mad at the coach for the play calling. You have to assume he's probably mad at the quarterback too. Calvin Ridley is a
bust.
L'Jarius Sneed, number 1 corner. He's the best. Look at him in the Super Bowl. Look at what he's doing with the Chiefs. He is the man. Last week, Denard Wilson says he's the best corner in the NFL. Then he went and gave up the biggest play of the game, a touchdown to Michael Pittman. He's been beat deep by Alec Pierce for a penalty. He was beat deep by Tyreek Hill twice in the Monday night game. He was beat deep against the Green Bay Packers. He was beat by Garrett Wilson at the end of the Jets game. I hate to say it, but that doesn't sound like the best corner in the NFL for $19 million. I need you to cover the Colts. Hate to say it, so far, L'Jarius Sneed.
Bust.
Chidobe Awuzie. I don't even really know how to pronounce his name, but it doesn't matter because he never plays. Chidobe Awuzie has been a
bust.
Tyler Boyd, 1 year. He's going to be the slot guy. He's going to be Will Levis's go-to guy. He's going to be the, when's the last time Tyler Boyd caught a ball? Tyler Boyd.
Bust.
Kenneth Murray. I actually think Kenneth Murray's the best thing they've done in 2 years. The value for what they're getting, he's flying all over the field. He's making tackles. And I'd rather have Kenneth Murray at 6 or 7 million than have Azeez at 11. I got to give Kenneth Murray credit. Kenneth Murray.
Hush.
Sebastian Joseph Day. Sebastian Joseph Day has come in, and he has been a wrecking ball when he gets to play, which is not all that often. But as much as you guys woo over T'Vondre Sweat, he actually has more quarterback hits and more sacks than big old T'Vondre Sweat. Got to give it up for Sebastian Joseph Day at $4 million.
Hush.
Jamal Adams.
Bust.
Quandre Diggs. He's been okay.
Hush.
$3 million. Sadiq Charles.
Bust.
All right, let's go to the draft. Peter Skoronski, a guard with the 11th overall pick, and he stinks.
Bust.
Will Levis, 2nd overall. He's the worst quarterback in the NFL right now.
Bust.
Tajay Spears. Boy, the Feeling Patrol loves Tajay Spears. But a top 100 pick on a running back who doesn't play. I'm sorry. If you're a top 100 running back, you need to be Alvin Kamara. Like, that's why guys sign undrafted free agents to be running backs. What big play has Tajay Spears made for the Titans? Sorry.
Bust.
I'm going to give Josh Wiley some credit. When he's available, he catches the ball in the 5th round for a tight end. I'm sure that's all you need to ask for. I'll give Josh Wiley a passing grade.
Hush.
And Jalen Duncan. They keep giving him opportunities. He keeps being terrible. He has never once stopped a pass rusher. In fact, when it comes to Jalen Duncan, I think we got to say this about Jalen Duncan. He lived up to his draft billing. When he was drafted, they put on the screen, led the Big Ten in sacks allowed. And boy, he has done that every opportunity he gets in the NFL, Jalen Duncan.
Bust.
J.C. Latham. Boy, did I lose my Kool-Aid when they drafted J.C. Latham with the 7th overall pick. But so far, he's been a starting caliber left tackle. He has improved. And I have to give him a little bit of credit there. So I'll say J.C. Latham.
Hush.
T'Vondre Sweat. Boy, the big boy is a good space-eating DT. He is a great run-stuffing DT in the mold of a Dan Big Daddy Wilkinson. The problem is that's not really valued with the 38th pick. He has never hit the quarterback in the NFL. He does not have a quarterback sack. This was hard for me, but I'm going to give him a passing grade for right now, even though I don't think it's worth the value of the 38th pick, T'Vondre Sweat.
Hush.
Cedric Gray has not played a snap in the NFL.
Bust.
Jarvis Brownlee Jr., very impressive for a 5th-round rookie. I'd like it if he'd stop with the penalties a little bit, and I think he's probably a backup long-term. But even if he's a backup corner, in the 5th round, that's really not bad value.
Hush.
And Jaquan Jackson, so far, I mean, what's he been dealing with as a punt returner? I'll give
He's
him
not messing up.
I'll give him a passing grade.
Hush.
And then the trades. Nick Folk. I got to give him credit.
Hush.
Didn't think he could kick. Didn't think he could kick it far.
Hush.
He's made his kicks.
Hush. Hush.
In fact, I think he's a good asset to trade here at the deadline. And finally, Ernest Jones. They gave up nothing for him, and they really haven't gotten anything out of him. But I like the move when it happened, and I'll give you credit. I think it's okay there.
Hush.
30 possible moves in Buster Hush. 19 busts. Oh, my goodness gracious. That was Bust or Hush. What'd you think of my game show skills?
Not terrible. Not terrible.
How catchy was that music?
Not terrible. Yeah.
So, again, I mean, you guys keep wanting to tell me how great this is, and it's like Dillard, bust. Key, bust. Cushenberry bust, Ridley bust, Snead
Too early on
bust,
Cushenberry.
Awuzie bust, Boyd bust. Yeah, I mean, of course it's too early on that, but I'd also say it's too early to say that Tavondre Sweat is good. Again, hey, he can really stuff the run. Great. So can DJ Reader. He's $8 million. He's not the 38th pick. So if I'm going to give Sweat his due, then we got to knock Cushenberry because he hadn't been good enough through the first 5 games. And that is bust or hush. 102.5, 106 for the game.
And now it's Henry time. Derrick cutting it outside. Derrick Henry! Touchdown, Ravens!
Secret way to score and be the best red zone team, be able to run the football. And he's as good as anybody. Washington brings everyone down, Jim. Look at how many guys are right here.
2nd and 5. He'll still face that with power, with Henry, with a touchdown. Great call, Tony. His 2nd touchdown of the game.
Bring Ricard back from the left side and let the big guy. No one even wants to hit him.
I mean, you let the big dog eat right there. Derrick Henry. I have got to say, I am absolutely stunned by something. Because when the Titans make bad decisions, and let me say this, everybody's going to be wrong and everybody's going to be right on some things. You know, I'm not right all the time. I was not against the decision that they made to trade A.J. Brown for Treylon Burks because all the draft analysts said, hey, Treylon Burks, he's a lot like A.J. Brown. And A.J. had his Twitter fingers and A.J. had his contract demands and A.J. had, you know, and it was like, and he had his knees injured. And I'm like, you know what? That's all. And that was a bad move. It was a bad move and it hurt the franchise. And there's no doubt it was bad. But I am stunned at how many Titan fans were mad about A.J. Brown, and rightfully so, but aren't mad about the fact that the Tennessee Titans let Derrick Henry walk out of the building and the subsequent results that Derrick Henry was receiving. Because when Derrick Henry was on the team, there was all this talk about, does he still have it? Does he not still have it? Should they trade him? Should they not trade him? Well, you know, is it the line? Is it Henry? Is it whatever? And Henry's gone to the Ravens and done everything he could possibly do. He's done with the Ravens what A.J. Brown did with the Eagles. Derrick Henry leads the NFL in rushing yards with 704. The guy at number 2 is at 609. Number 3 is at 485. Derrick at 704 is up 219 yards on the guy who ranks number 3. Derrick Henry has 8 touchdowns, first in the NFL. Derrick Henry is averaging 117.3 yards per game in 2021, which I felt like, Ian, I really feel like if we go back to Derrick, the most dominant outside of the 4 games at the end of 2018 and the playoff run in 19, the most dominant Derrick Henry was that first half of the 2021 season before he broke his foot at Indianapolis.
He was on his way to another 2000 season.
Derrick Henry was averaging 117.1. So right now he's averaging 117.3. That time he was averaging 117.1. He's the exact same guy. And by the way, Derrick is averaging 8 less attempts per game with the Baltimore Ravens. He's still Derrick Henry. He's still the king. He's still the Derrick Henry of 2020 and 2021. And you just let him leave. With A.J. Brown, you got a 1st and a 3rd round pick in return. Granted, they both stunk, but you at least got something. Derrick, you got nothing. And you spent all off season bragging about how you had $100 gajillion to spend, but you couldn't spend $1 extra million on Derrick Henry? Not one? He's making $1 million more than Tony Pollard. And the Titan fans aren't mad about it. Titan fans are like, well, I want Derrick Henry to go win a ring. Do you not want A.J. Brown to go win a ring? Quite frankly, I don't care if Derrick Henry or A.J. Brown wins a ring. I want the Titans to win a ring. Well, Derrick Henry probably didn't want to come back here. Derrick Henry didn't want to come back here because Derrick Henry knew that the Titans didn't want him anymore. He wanted to be somewhere where he felt respected, and that's important. And if you don't believe me, listen to what he said last week when he was on the Dan Patrick show, and Dan Patrick asked him about the mindset of teams around the league when Derrick Henry left the Titans.
But do you think people doubted you after you left Tennessee? And did you still have, that get up and go? Could you still, be an elite running back?
Yeah, I think it was, doubt everywhere. I mean, I think it was doubt there that they didn't think I was where I used to be. But I knew that, I still had plenty left. And, when that next opportunity came as far as free agency, I was going to be ready to showcase that I can still go.
Yeah, I think there was doubt there too. They didn't want me. And by the way, there's this little tool that you have. It's called the franchise tag. And the Titans could have used that on Derrick. Even though they already used it once on Derrick, it would have been for a little bit more. But it still would have been a whole hell of a lot less than Calvin Ridley's number. But no. These guys, bust or hush, these guys, they knew. And they just let Derrick Henry walk out the door. And I'm not defending John Robinson, even though, again, I understood why they made the A.J. Brown trade when they made it. And I'm just as wrong as everybody else who thought, you know what, good riddance when they made the trade. TD thought it was crazy when it happened. He was right. I was wrong. But this is A.J. 2.0. And I don't hear the anger. And I don't hear the disdain for the guy who made those decisions, the guys who made those decisions, the collaboration that made that decision. I don't hear that. In fact, they tried to trade him last year for a 4th-round pick. So I hate to say it, but again, he's the best player the Titans have ever had. He's the most popular player in this era of the Titans. And he's the best player at his position in the NFL. And you let him just go to one of your biggest rivals. And people aren't even mad about it. And I do not understand that. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. We will hit your phones. Plus, Joe Rexroad has argued for the stupidest trade I have ever heard. We have got to get to that. And then your phones at Stillman and Company, 1025 The Game.
I was here halfway into that last segment when I could have come in and told you that Harold Landry being worth a first is a pipe dream.
There we go.
That you're overly addicted to Hendon Hooker because you followed him with the Vols and somehow became a cheerleader rather than a reporter.
Yes, exactly.
And I mean, it's a nice discussion thing, but Harold Landry,
GBO, baby.
them overvaluing Harold Landry would make him a 2, not a 1.
Yeah, it's probably. I mean, you may be right about that. Again, Stilly keeps you and Stilly, same team. Stilly keep Ladarius Dave right third. Again, let's talk about the situation. This only even becomes any conversation if the Lions are striking out elsewhere. Like Stilly mentions Reddick, right? You got Crosby, you got Garrett. I'm telling you, the Lions are like they could win it, but they just lost their best player by far. Like this is a desperate situation of like,
and Landry's not
that's
the
where
best option
that's
for
where
because they need a real go getter, and Landry, comes up a little bit short on that meter.
Joe Rexroad thinks that the Detroit Lions trading a first-round pick for Harold Landry is not one of the stupidest trade suggestions in the history of the NFL. In the history of sports talk radio. And I love this. Like, Stilly says, well, why would they do that when they did that trade for Hassan Reddick? I mean, isn't that a pretty good question? Like the Jets are saying, hey, we're willing to trade Hassan Reddick. The Jets, I think, traded a third-round pick in 2026 in order to get Hassan Reddick. So, again, we're talking about third-round pick in 2026. L'Jarius Sneed was worth a third-round pick to Kansas City. You want to trade Harold Landry, and you think the Detroit Lions will give you a first-round pick? Do you understand the value in today's NFL of first-round picks? And again, we're talking about a smart organization in the Lions. You think the Lions are just going to say, you know what? We're so desperate. Aiden Hutchinson is out, and now our Super Bowl team we're worried is going. So we're going to trade a first-round pick for Harold Landry. I am shocked by how often I think I say pretty sensible things. No, the whole, like, let's not just brush off right tackle this year. That was me. The whole congratulations, you spent money. Jared, you got to admit, we're better this year. I'm not going to say that. Why not? Because I think Derrick Henry's pretty good. So even though everyone thinks, oh, he's just a shock jock, I don't come on the air and say, you know what the Titans should do? The Titans should trade Nicholas Petit-Frere to the Kansas City Chiefs for Patrick Mahomes. The Tennessee Titans should trade. Remember how I got drug for saying 2 first-round picks and Kevin Byard to Seattle for Russell Wilson, which would have been a disastrous trade. But Russell kind of went for that. That's what Russell ended up going for. Harold Landry for a first-round pick. What a dopey thing to say. And then that whole Levis Hooker thing, I get accused, and I don't like this, but I get accused of being what's called a shock jock. A shock jock is somebody that's like, we're interviewing Margaret Thatcher today, and we're going to ask her what color panties she wears. I don't do that. Again, I have strong opinions about sports, but I think there's a difference between shock jock and me. But I get accused of it, and I don't necessarily like it because I do put a lot of thought into what we discuss. And a lot of the times the things we discuss, I think, are rooted in reality. The problem is a lot of you live in Titan land, which is not. And then Joe Rexroad comes on the market. If Joe ever has the gall in the summer to say, well, I think Stilly's just trying to make a topic out of something, when he's talking about a first-round pick for Harold Landry, I'm never going to let this go. He's going to wish he never, ever, ever suggested this. By the way, Jared versus Joe is in 20 minutes. He is going to wish that he never said it, because I'll bring this up every time. Every time he says, boy, I'll tell you, that's a crazy take by Stilly to think that the Titans need a right tackle when they've got Nicholas Petit-Frere, a.k.a.
PT.
When they got PT out there, I mean, that's a crazy take from Stilly's part. I'll be like, crazier than a first-round pick for Harold Landry? Like, you might, if you called the Lions and you were like, hey, you want to take on Harold Landry, you might get the buyer return, a 5th and 6th round pick. A first. Devontae Adams just went for a 3rd that could be a 2nd. And you think you're getting a first? A first. Give me a break. A first for Harold Landry. Like, Harold Landry's that big of a difference maker. That's like when the Predators traded a 1st-round pick for Ryan Hartman. That's as bad. That's how bad that is. You think the Lions are that stupid? That is the worst radio trade. And there's some bad that wasn't suggested by a caller. That is the worst radio trade I have heard from a host in years. I can't even think of the last time I heard something so stupid. I'm serious about that. A first for Harold Landry. Bill's up next on the program. Phone line driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com. Go ahead, Bill.
If we wind up with a high pick in the draft, is there anybody out in the college world that you'd be satisfied that we put in? Are we going to set them and do something for a quarterback, and so we don't ruin the next guy like we ruined some of the others?
So I'm glad you bring that up, Bill, about the idea
like
of
it's a real
ruining the quarterback.
quandary.
So I'm glad you brought that up. Good call, Bill. I'm glad you brought up the idea of, are we going to sit him so we don't ruin him? Is there a guy out there? Here's what I'm not going to pretend to do. I am not going to pretend to tell you that I have watched enough of Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward, Jalen Milroe, Carson Beck, or Quinn Ewers to be able to decipher the difference between these guys. I have not watched any film to be able to sit there and tell you, other than just watching games when these guys are on TV. But at the same time, my concern when it comes to the Titans and their ability to develop a quarterback correctly, I think we can all agree, right? The first step of finding the guy is identification, right? Like, can you identify who the guy is? The second step is development. What's the program? Does he have the right coaches? Should he sit on the bench? Should he play right away? Do you have an offensive line in front of him? You know that important position the Titans don't care about, right tackle? Do you have a right tackle? Kind of important. And then I think 3, the third thing that's important with this is, what's inside the kid? And I guess that's part of identification and everything else. But that's how you develop a quarterback, and that the quarterback becomes a star. Sometimes it's easy. Yeah, Joe Burrow's pretty good. Let's pick him. Okay, what's our program going to be? We're going to get him some good receivers, and we're going to get him killed. Well, that'll work for Joe Burrow. But for the most part, it's a little bit more difficult than that. And the question I have to ask, and I asked it yesterday, do you trust the guys who drafted Will Levis, who this is their plan for Will Levis, Brian Callahan's offense, which has made him worse? Do you trust them to identify and then develop and then execute by getting the right players in here to go around him, getting the right coaching? Do you trust these guys to do that when they failed with the last one? And my answer is no. But for some reason, well, I think there's like some sort of, you have to trust these guys to do it. And I don't know why I have to, but that's what everybody tells me, supposedly. 615-737-1025 here on Stillman and Company. 1025-1063 the game. Tomorrow it's your chance to participate in Preds Pick to Click. Holy crap, do the Preds need a win. If you correctly guess a Preds player that scores a goal in the game tomorrow night, you win a pair of tickets to an upcoming Preds home game. Tune in tomorrow morning with Robbie and Rexroad, the GM show, right here on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game, and join 102.5, 106.3 The Game and Joe Dubin from 11 to 1 o'clock this Saturday at Hope Fest 2024, a family-friendly festival celebrating hope found in the faith and recovery of community. The event will be held at the Bethel Church of Nazarene at 455 Broadmoor Drive in Nashville from 11 to 2, with free food, games for the kids, mental health, and recovery resources available. The Tennessee Titans Alumni Association will be on hand with their vaccination clinic. For more details at thegamenashville.com/events.
better as quarterback? Yeah, I think he's seeing things well. He's understanding what's trying to get done. He's found completions at a bit of a higher rate, which has been good. Now we got to find the balance of being aggressive still and being smart with the football, and then still completing the balls when they're there to be completed. And again, sometimes they're not exciting completions, but they're effective and efficient. But we certainly got to find ways to get the ball, down the field a little bit more and let him do things that he's good at as well. So there's been some growth in some of the intermediate and underneath things and decision making, and then we still got to keep that aggressiveness with him as well.
Brian Callahan keeps pumping the tires of Will Levis, saying, well, the completion percentage is up after he stumbled around with let me think of something positive. I do wonder this when it comes to Callahan, and I get it. The quarterback is our guy until he's not our guy anymore. I get it. But at some point, this constant, staunch defensiveness of Will Levis is ultimately going to become a reflection of Brian Callahan. I don't know when that's going to be, but it's going to happen. And if you listen to Derrick Mason, apparently it sounds like inside the locker room, that might be happening. Let me check my watch now.
Those high-priced guys that they brought in, they are questioning whether Will Levis is the guy right now. And the receiver coach is trying to keep everything together. He's listening to their grievances. He's trying to work through it with them. But he sees the same thing that Calvin Ridley sees. He sees the same thing that Hop or Tyler Boyd sees. Because Traylon can't say anything because Traylon ain't making no play.
Westbrook Akina yesterday.
It is what it is for me.
Shout out.
But those other three veteran guys that have been with teams that their passing game has been legit, they come here and they're like, man, this is what I signed up for? Seriously? Coach is trying to keep it all together. But he ain't gonna be able to keep it together no longer. Because now that Calvin Ridley said what he said, best believe some more is going to be coming if they continue to lose.
A lot of people say, well, Brian Callahan didn't draft Will Levis. Well, that's great. But Brian Callahan's the one who keeps defending Will Levis. At some point, that does become his responsibility. At some point, when he keeps telling us, no, I think he's getting better. No, I still believe. No, I think he's got it. At some point, it's like, well, you were wrong. And now we don't trust you anymore. And I don't know when that happens. One texter says, the A.J. Brown trade is not equal to Derrick Henry walking. I know you want to cover for your boy, J-Rob. First of all, guys, I think you guys forget about how John Robinson and I got into it when he was general manager. Like when I kept asking him before the 2022 draft about what did you do in the 2019 draft that you didn't do in 2020 and 2021? And John's like, God, why do you keep asking about the 2019 draft? Because it was the last good one. You guys think that I wasn't on John Robinson. This ain't about John Robinson. See, that's what people do when they want to feel good about themselves. They want to feel good about their football team and not think that they're run by guys that don't have a clue. So they say Jared's biased. But I didn't sign Calvin Ridley for $90 million. I'm not the one responsible for L'Jarius Sneed coming in here and getting burned by Alec Pierce. I'm not the one who's ignored right tackle for the last 2 years. My point is, A.J. Brown was an elite player. We all know it. We all watched it. We all saw it. They traded away A.J. Brown thinking they were going to draft another elite player. They didn't. Fans went nuts. They should have. The Titans let Derrick Henry leave because they didn't think he was an elite player anymore. Derrick has even said as much. I still thought Derrick was an elite player. It's funny, people on Twitter are like, you wanted Derrick Henry gone too. Hell no, I didn't. I went to the Super Bowl. We had Warren Moon on the show. I'm like, Warren, do you think it's a good idea for Derrick to go? He's like, I don't think so. Rich Gannon, do you think it's a bad idea for Derrick to go? I don't think so. I mean, I wanted Derrick Henry back because I thought it was best for the young quarterback. And Derrick Henry has gone to the Ravens, and Derrick Henry has performed at the top of the league And yet you aren't mad about it the way you were mad about A.J. Brown. Somebody tell me why. And I know the answer. Here's the reason. Expectations in life are everything. The Titans, when they traded A.J. Brown, were contending for the Super Bowl. Granted, it seemed pretty apparent, and this was why I freaked out about Ryan Tannehill so much at the time. It was very apparent you probably weren't going to be able to run the gauntlet of the AFC with Ryan Tannehill as your quarterback, which, by the way, I think is still the problem that Baltimore has, which is, can Lamar win 3 games against AFC quarterbacks in order to win the Super Bowl? But people thought this was a team contending. They were 7-5. AJ, a key piece to that, lit them up. And it was like, good riddance. Because you thought you had a Super Bowl caliber team. Well, even though the Titans told everybody, we think we're going to compete this year, nobody thought they were a Super Bowl caliber team. So it's like, it doesn't matter as much. But as far as the actual undervaluing what you had and watching it go somewhere else and flourish, Derrick Henry is no different than A.J. Brown. Other than the fact that A.J. Brown's been hurt a lot in Philadelphia, A.J. Brown has caused problems in Philadelphia, and I can promise you, Derrick ain't getting hurt, and Derrick's not causing problems. And you know it. But, again, I'm the bad guy. One texter says, you defend John Robinson and his firing daily, and you have never said anything positive about Rand, not one thing. What did Bill Parcells used to say? You are what your record says you are in the NFL. John Robinson won 61% of his games. In fact, in the 2022 season, the Titans were 7-5 when John Robinson got fired. 7-5. Do you know how many games Rand's won since he's become general manager? 7. I just want us to have the same standards. But I know we don't, because it doesn't make us feel good about it. 615-737-1025, Jared versus Trader Joe, which is up next here on the program. Stillman and Company, 1025, 106 again. Stillman and Company, 1025, 1063 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. It's 5 o'clock on a Wednesday. Everybody's back in town, back from their mid-season vacations, which I don't take, but, well, I'll have a kid soon enough, and then maybe my life will change.
Fall break.
At least a little bit here. Caroline is here. Caroline, how are you?
I am doing great. Let Joe go on vacation, okay? Joe gets a fall break. I get an adult spring break. Let everybody take vacations when they want to take vacations.
Do you really take a spring break?
Yes.
Well, you cover college football, and so that's totally fine. Now, if you have to cover college basketball, I don't know if you can take spring break this year, Caroline.
Well, I don't know if I will be covering college basketball, but if I do, then I will not be taking a spring break. But if I don't, then I will.
I mean, I never took a spring break in college because, well, I was always with the basketball team. We always had basketball games. That being said.
Well, I was fun in college, so I did.
That being said, we have a new nickname for Joe Rexroad.
Oh, let's hear it.
There was Bad Take Joe, which was the original. There was GB Joe, because he is
Classic.
such a Vols homer. And now, Trader Joe. That's Trader Joe with his first round pick offer on the table from the Detroit Lions for Harold Landry. And not only that, he gets Hendon Hooker, GB Joe, and Trader Joe get Hendon Hooker to quarterback the Titans as part of his Fakakta deal. Joe Rexroad is with us. Hello, Joe.
You're welcome, Titan Nation.
By the way,
give me the chef hat. Give me the chef hat.
Well, I mean, if you just tell them that they're going to be good, they'll give you the chef hat. That being said, when it comes to the Titans, Joe, I don't ever want to hear that I am, it's Stilly. He's just trying to find something to talk about because he had some cock to take I don't believe with. Because that Harold Landry trade suggestion you made today or yesterday or whenever you made it was one of the stupidest things I've ever heard.
Oh, you've heard way stupider than that.
No, I have not.
Stupider. Oh, you've said way stupider.
Give me an example.
Can we do this? Can we do this?
Give me the stupidest. Go.
Caroline, Jared, I am not going to select. I'm not going to thumb through the catalog of Jared takes now.
First round.
One of my personal favorites is that the Titans hired was it Chad Brinker so they could get Aaron Rodgers?
Did I say that?
I forgot that one. Thank you.
I don't even remember that.
That's one of my favorites.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Caroline. Appreciate it.
Yes,
Boy,
of
what
course.
a mess that is. All right, time for Jared versus Joe.
Jared Stillman versus Joe Rexroad. Now on Stillman and Company.
On ESPN.
1025 The Game.
Jared versus Joe is presented by Pella Windows and Doors of Nashville. Ian and I, during that intro, were like, did I say that about you? He was like, maybe. And I was like, it sounds like something I could have said. Caroline, go.
I'll find the receipts. Okay, Joe, you go first. If and maybe, should I go out on a limb here and say when the Titans end up with a top pick in this upcoming draft, who should make the pick?
Oh, who should make? Well, the pick. So are you asking if this front office should be fired, or are you asking between this front office who should make the pick?
That is up to interpretation, Joe.
I mean, I can't name like a new GM right now, but I will say that I think it would be comical, that Amy Adams Strunk would fire this front office like in the stage that they're in. So to me, who should make the pick? Rand Carthon, the general manager, should make the pick, and then Chad Brinker, whatever exactly his role in that discussion, I would say it would be prominent, should have his say, and they should do the same thing. Look, the only thing good I can say for the Titans right now, there aren't many things. I will say that this most recent draft class doesn't look too bad at this moment. There's 3 guys I like in this draft class. If you get 3 guys you like out of each one, then you're going to be doing a lot better than the last few draft classes of John Robinson.
What about the last draft class before that?
Yeah, don't like that one as much. I know. That's fair. It's a totally fair thing to bring up. That looks bad. I mean, Skronsky, we have agreed before that pick. When you take him a guard, as you like to say, then he needs to be a star. It does not look like that's the trajectory, and obviously the quarterback right now is struggling mightily. So
Not great last year. This year, I really like Latham. I like Sweat, and I really like Brownlee, especially where he was picked.
So you can like Brownlee where he's picked. I don't think you can like Sweat where he's picked. If we're talking about the value, Sweat's not worth the 38th overall pick in the draft. He hasn't hit the quarterback once.
Do you get good football players? We can argue.
Well, you're trying to brag on Brownlee, and I think Brownlee is
I'm not bragging on anything.
Solid backup corner. I think that's what he's going to be in his career, and you're going to be happy that he's your backup, a better version of LaShawn Sims. Is what I think you're looking at with Brownlee, and that's good for the fifth round.
LaShawn Sims, okay.
Throwback.
There's a poll. Okay.
But LaShawn Sims was not awful for a backup corner.
Yeah, this guy's better than LaShawn Sims. But
LaShawn Sims was taken in the 6th round. He's taken in the 5th round. And for the 5th round, that's good. But again, if we're doing that, then the 38th pick to not hit the quarterback is a problem. I think if things continue on this path, I don't see any legitimate reason that Rand Carthon and Chad Brinker should be making decisions for this franchise. All they have done is make things worse. And it's great because people use their feelings like, oh, no, that was Vrabel's fault. But the facts are that in order to match John Robinson, which wasn't good enough around here, with his 61% wins, Rand Carthon and Chad Brinker would have to win 17 games in a row. And I believe that when they fired John Robinson, the whole mantra was, we have high expectations. And when they fired Mike Vrabel, they said, we have high expectations. And they never once told the fan base that they were rebuilding. They never once signaled to the fan base they were rebuilding. And I think they didn't do that because I don't think they were rebuilding. I don't think I don't think this was what she expected this season, to have one of the worst teams in the league that gets, dog walked at home by Malik Willis. I don't think that's the case. This team is terrible and everything's going in the wrong direction. And thus, simply because you think it would be embarrassing to have the same guys fired because you fired other people that win, you want to keep the guys who lose, is crazy to me. The truth is if right now, the way I'm looking at it, the moves that have been made since Rand Carthon and Chad Brinker have been hired, Skoronski, bust. Levis, bust. Spears, bust. Andre Dillard, bust. Arden Key, bust. I'm sorry, a top 100 pick on a 3rd down running back. Jeremy McNichols has more touchdowns than Tajay Spears this year.
So they've done nothing positive.
Hold on.
There's no part of this team that's good or has been chosen well.
Hold on. Andre Dillard, bust. Arden Key, bust. Sean Murphy Bunting, bust. Brunskill, bust. Aziz, that was a good signing. Aziz. DeAndre Hopkins, not a bad signing. Cushenberry, bust. Pollard, that's a good sign. He's not Derrick Henry, but it's a good sign.
You're seriously going to go through the whole roster for 2 years right now?
Calvin Ridley, bust. L'Jarius Sneed, bust. Chidobe Awuzie, bust. Tyler Boyd, bust. Kenneth Murray's been pretty good. Jamal Adams, bust. I mean, you see what I'm saying? These guys suck. And you want to keep them just because you think that it's a bad look to fire them.
Well,
so you're going to give them the number 2 pick. You're going to have the same guys that picked the last quarterback who is god-awful. You're going to let them pick the next quarterback. That's crazy.
Well, so was the 1st round pick this year a good pick or not?
Latham was good.
Was that
Sweat,
a good pick?
Questionable.
Okay. The 1st round pick is critical. Right? I mean, it's critical. So right now, I'd say they look like they're going to be 1 for 2. What's crazy is you looking at this team, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but not giving enough blame to the issue, which is Will Levis. I mean,
so you're going to let the guys who picked Will Levis, you're going to let them pick the next guy
when they're in their first year of this setup.
Excuses.
Yeah, I think.
John Robinson drafted 3 All-Pros in his first draft, and that wasn't good enough.
Well, it wasn't good enough because by the time he got fired, which we both agree was stupid in season, he had been stacking horrific draft classes and making awful decisions, the worst of which was A.J. Brown, which, by the way, want to talk about Jared takes? Oh, I see that one. That's pretty good. I get that one. No, I mean, John Robinson over time got worse. His first draft was amazing. His first off season was amazing. But yeah, it's just the crazy part of this to me is that it's this early and you're so convinced these guys, quote, suck.
They suck.
I don't think all of the evidence is that they, quote, suck.
They were a scotch away from the playoffs when they took over, right? Like literally it was a ref's call that decided whether or not they were going to the playoffs.
Right.
They're the worst team in the league right now.
But you seem to think, Jared, like it's just like go back to John Robinson. He had a great first offseason, right? Also, it was kind of nice to inherit Taylor Lewan and Jarrell Casey.
And it'll be
Ryan
nice for the
Rexroad.
next guy to inherit J.C. Latham. Not even the bad teams have a good player.
Jared, the point is that there's lag time still on all this stuff, right? Like John Robinson's bad drafting is still rearing its head. And I'm not going to sit here and put everything on him. No, of course not. But you can't sit there and say, well, these guys just took over. How's the team? The team sucks. Oh, my God, they suck. Like, they took over a team that was eroding badly with its roster because of bad decisions by the previous regime. And that's objectively true. Again, I'm not saying I'm bought in, like these guys are fantastic, but I think it is absolutely crazy that you would fire them this year.
I think it's crazy that you won't even consider it.
Well, look, I mean, look, there's a lot more information to come this season. So
the decision on the next quarterback, I think we can all agree is a 3-year decision, right?
You mean, what do you mean?
So if the Titans have the second overall pick and they take Cam Ward, well, now you are committed to Cam Ward for the next 3 years, right?
At least.
I mean, that sounds good, but in this league, that's not how things often work out. I'd say 2. You feel good about 2.
So now you're going to commit the franchise. You're going to give them the decision to make the decision. Like you're going to give them the ability to steer the franchise for the next 3 years when the only evidence that we have on them is Will Levis, who's the worst quarterback in the NFL right now.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
I'm not okay with that.
Has not worked out. I mean, Will Levis has not worked out, and I'm sure there'll be more. Who really liked Will Levis? Who really?
And you know what
we're
going to get told? We're going to get told Vrabel really liked Will Levis. It was Vrabel.
Well,
that's what we're going to get told.
I don't think anyone has the. I can't believe anybody will try that, but yeah, possibly.
Caroline.
To be fair, it was the same regime that decided to sell the farm for Trey Lance that drafted Brock Purdy.
Yeah, they kind of saved their asses with that, though.
They totally saved their asses.
But they also had been to a Super Bowl, and again, it's
right. And so, what does that tell you? I mean, that's a great point, Caroline. What does that tell you? All these guys, all of them, screw up quarterback. They all do. They all screw up quarterback, or they get lucky, and some of them have both.
But just because San Francisco screwed up quarterback and got lucky doesn't mean that that's an excuse for why I want Rand Carthon and Chad Brinker to pick the next quarterback for the Titans.
Okay.
I mean, you're sitting there saying look, they all get lucky here. Say, why can we blame them on that?
I am sitting here saying how things have worked out with Will Levis, I do not consider to be a fireable offense for these guys.
Oh.
Now, if everything was bad, then that's different. And like I was starting to say, look, like if Snead's knees all of a sudden he can't play half the year. I mean, they're like,
I'm concerned the fact that right now Snead can't play and he's got okay knees. He can't cover Alec Pierce.
And also, to be fair, Joe, isn't everything bad?
Every move they made? No,
Kenneth Murray's good, the inside back.
Every move that they made, but is all peachy in Titan land? I don't think so.
Of course not. It's terrible.
And their coaching hire looks disastrous right now, which again, it's early, but it's bad.
We'll see. I mean, we'll see. But again, like the defense, do I think Denard Wilson's a good D coordinator so far? Not bad.
This defense blows.
The number one defense thing
they suck. They suck.
Hold on.
They don't turn the ball over. They don't. Yeah, it's easy to be the number one defense when you give up 113 yards in penalties. They don't count that against you.
Yeah. Again, as I was trying to say a sentence, the number one defense thing is certainly some smoke and mirrors, but it's also like it's not a horrific defense. Like everything peachy. No, they have a quarterback right now who can't play, and so they lose close games and they score 17 points, so they're 1-4. So he's the problem. I mean, he is the primary problem right now.
More Jared versus Joe to continue next. Stillman and Company, 102.5 The Game. Jared versus Joe is presented by Pella Windows and Doors of Nashville, Caroline.
I got one that I think Joe is going to hate, and it's going to be great. Jared, you go first. Who would be a better general manager for the Titans today, John Robinson or Rand Carthon?
Oh, it's easy. It's John Robinson. And look, John Robinson screwed a bunch of stuff up. There's no doubt about that. Like the AJ trade, the Julio trade, the Farley pick, the Wilson pick, the Radens pick. Again, screwed a bunch of stuff up. But the guy won 61% of his games. Even the year he got fired, they were 7-5. They've won 7 games since they fired him. And he is responsible for 5 All-Pros. He is responsible for the running back they have that's going to go to the Hall of Fame. And I actually think that John Robinson would be pretty good if given a second shot, because I think he'd probably leave a little bit of that arrogance that maybe he had at the end of the door. Again, other than finding 3 good inside backers, I don't really know what Ran Carthon does well. I mean, hey, he drafted a tackle. Way to go. So did John Robinson. And let's say this, as bad as Isaiah Wilson was, I bet you if the Titans had the 7th pick in a draft, they wouldn't have drafted Isaiah Wilson. So other than when John inherited the 1st pick and then traded it away, and then the second year when they had the 5th pick as a result of the trade, they never even came close to picking 7th overall under John Robinson. So I don't even think this is close. And I don't think John Robinson would do interviews during practice like Ran Carthon does. I don't think John Robinson would need somebody promoted above him to help him do his job the way that Ran Carthon did. And I think that John Robinson's coaching hire, as of right now, looks a lot better than Ran Carthon's. So I don't think it's really a difficult discussion. The answer is John Robinson.
By the way, thank you to Adam Bingen for his excellent submission of Ellie Tolvin and Flores, Philip Forsberg. Good submission to Adam Bingen.
That's a doozy.
That's a beauty.
That's a good one.
No, I don't hate this question, and I actually agree with Jared. I mean, like John Robinson's a much more proven GM, so I would pick him. Like I do, I understand Jared likes to make fun of Chad Brinker's models and all that stuff. I do think that they needed to beef up that part of the operation. We'll see if it pays off, or maybe we won't see if it pays off. Maybe they will follow Jared's. I know, Jared, they're bad. I know they're a bad team.
Well, but let's use the analytics thing, right? One of the guys that does analytics.
Okay, so hold on. But going into the year, you picked this team to do what? Go 5-12?
Yeah.
Okay, and you're acting like shocked that they're not good.
I'm not shocked, but if you listen to them talk before the season,
they have a winning record this year, right? Did anybody in town pick them a winning record?
They spent the whole offseason pumping sunshine, saying they were going to be good.
Okay.
They never talked about a rebuild. They never said, "Hey, fans, we're going to try our hardest. We're working through it." They never said it. So now we have to give them credit for it.
They got some players. They went and got players, right? And they're trying to be competitive. You're absolutely right that Adam Strunk did not expect them to stink this year. She wants them to be good right now. She wants to sell PSLs. And if the best case scenario of Will Levis as a quarterback was playing out this year so far, what would their record be?
I mean, that's a big if, though.
Yeah, well, it's a million
and
miles.
And they're the ones that brought Will Levis in, and they're the ones that didn't put a real backup behind
I'm agreeing on John Robinson. I mean, like, we agree on this answer. I would also pick John Robinson, but you are.
But you start making excuses for him.
I'm not making excuses. You are spinning everything into everything sucks. Nothing's been done well.
Well, let's use the analytics department as an example.
You're spinning.
Let's use the analytics department as an example. Because I read Paul Kaharski's piece where he went person by person and said what everybody does, which, by the way, I'm not going to lie to you, I think I kind of bullied Chad Brinker into doing that. But more importantly, the first person's job is the college prediction model. So they run these numbers and it gives them an idea of what someone's going to be based off the college prediction model. How's Skoronski working out?
Yeah, like they're going to miss on players.
Okay.
They're going to miss on players.
Okay.
You can't miss in the first round.
What about...
No quibbles there.
Okay. What about the person with the team that is in charge of the rules? They have a rules analyst. They have 2 people on the headset during the games, including a rules expert and a real-time analytics game coach as part of the analytics. Well, how did they go to Miami and not know the rules on the kickoff?
I don't know, Jared.
Okay, then why, if they've got these great analytic people upstairs, are they punting the ball on 4th and 7 in the 4th quarter down by 3?
Well, that sounds like a head coach overruling the analytics people, because the analytics definitely said go for it.
Okay,
right?
So I mean, again,
is he allowed to do that or not?
So what's the point of these analytics if they don't ever use them or they don't work? the
you're
injury
saying that
prevention
if
model.
hold
How's
on, hold on.
Chidobe Awuzie been this year?
This is a great example of your logic. So if on one occasion the head coach does not just like a robot go with the analytics, that means they don't ever listen to the analytics people. I mean, think about how twisted that logic is. We know of one occasion where, thank you for the information, I'm going with my gut and going elsewhere. Oh, they never do listen to analytics. What are you talking about?
No.
This is the problem.
My
this
whole
is how
point
you
is,
argue.
No. My whole point is
No,
that
yeah,
the Titans use the word analytics, and it's like, this is what they did. They basically said, we were so far behind the rest of the league with John Robinson in the Stone Age because he was a bumpkin. And so now we've brought in these guys from San Francisco and Green Bay that are so smart that went to Kellogg and found this AI model that cures cancer. And now we're going to be smarter than everybody else. And the reality is, I actually think they're run dumber than they were before. But because they brag about their analytics, it's like, no, they're smart.
So anyway, the way we got into this is, like I said, I would pick John Robinson. I do think that in general, you should have an analytics team in the NFL in today's game. So that, in theory, hiring those people was good.
But you don't want them because you'd rather have John Robinson.
They also suck. Perhaps they suck too.
I mean, it's
perhaps they all suck, Jared. I mean, I know you love that word.
It's a possibility. Caroline, what's next?
Joe, you go first. Should Will Levis regret doing the mayonnaise commercials?
Oh, hell no. God, good job, Will. Put some money in that pocket, man, because right now things are not trending toward, toward the big $250 million deal here as a starter in the NFL. But no, not at all. And if you mean regret because people are like making fun of him, I mean, so what? You got paid, man. If you mean regret because like somehow that has some influence on his poor play, I hope to God you don't mean that, because that's so stupid.
I mean, I think that we have to think about what really matters to Will Levis, and I think his image is what really matters to him, which is why he did the mayonnaise commercials, which is why he sat there with Peyton Manning and asked
you would have
about
totally turned it down.
Marketing
because he
opportunities.
asked about monetizing. Oh, what a sin! What a crime!
CJ Stroud didn't ask about it.
Good old. Thankfully, Jared volunteers at this station. I mean, we really appreciate it, Jared. It's more money for the rest of us because you volunteer and you're just so altruistic and just worried about everybody else. Get the hell out of here with that crap.
I think I don't want to say who said this because I don't know if they want to put this on the record or not, but somebody in the media said that Will Levis is like an actor who's playing quarterback. And I every time I think of that,
I'm glad he did that commercial.
I'm like, that is so
that's his true calling.
And I think what really matters, I think Will Levis is really insecure. And I think what really matters to Will Levis is, again, what people think about him. So when he gets up there and he says that he doesn't care what the stats say or what anybody says about him, I think the exact opposite is true. So I think that Will Levis cares what people think about him. And again, like the mayonnaise commercials, it was an opportunity to be made fun of. And there's Stephen A. Smith just right there making fun of him on national TV for doing the mayonnaise commercials. It's embarrassing as a Titan fan when I see him on a commercial. If this is just, like an earnings report and they're sitting there talking about what the bottom line is, then I guess, yeah, okay, good. He made some money on the mayonnaise deal. Great. But as far as, your own self-esteem and what people think of you, which matters to him, I'm not sure this was the right thing to do. And I do think it sends the wrong message when you suck and your coach won't sit you down. And yet you're sitting here on these mayonnaise commercials like, man, I'll tell you, boy, his head's in the right place. The Titans' heads are in the right, but they're not a joke. So, I mean, look, maybe he likes the money.
He did the mayonnaise
I don't know,
commercials before this season, Jared. You realize that, right?
I know, but
there's this thing where you record things,
right,
and then you play them later. You get that?
And so did Baker Mayfield when he was in Cleveland. He did the Progressive commercials, and I'm sure he didn't tape them on Wednesday before the Patriots game on Sunday. But it was used against Baker. And Baker had to spend a lot of time, rebuilding his reputation. Even this year, the going rate for a starting quarterback, and I think Baker is every bit as good as Trevor Lawrence, Tua, some of these guys that signed for real money and stink. Baker's making $30 million a year. Those guys are making 55. And I think that there's kind of, a hesitancy with Baker. And I think some of that is around it. So
wait a minute. Wait, whoa. So you are suggesting that his progressive commercials hurt his career, not the injuries that got him out of Cleveland because he didn't perform that year. It was the progressive commercial. That's what you're saying?
They made a big deal about it. Like
dumbass people make a big deal out of dumbass things. Yes, Jared, that does happen.
Well, what other unproven quarterback?
Right.
What other unproven quarterback other than Will Levis and Baker Mayfield has done a national commercial campaign ad of, and even like the progressive thing? That's like
I have no idea. Who gives a crap?
This is money. I mean, or this is mayonnaise. Like it's almost a joke. But I mean, I think it makes Levis come off as kind of a doofus, and this season has been kind of a doofus. So I don't think it's been a good thing.
He made fun of himself. Credit to him. They were funny. It has nothing to do with his poor performance at quarterback. It will have nothing to do with whatever happens in his career, too. That will depend on his performance on the field and his health.
Caroline?
Anything other than that is absolutely inane conversation.
Caroline,
Thank you for bringing that to us.
Last one. Should Jared, and Jared, you go first. Should Jared get credit for the Vanderbilt wins the past couple of weeks for his reverse rat poison?
I don't think I should get credit above the coach or the players or anything like that. But if they wanted
just below the coach and the players,
if Vanderbilt wanted to make me a game ball for being the one guy who, again, I didn't even say anything bad about Diego Pavia. I just said, like, I was worried about all the rat poison before the UK game when he launched a podcast. And I'm like, oh, who cares what Diego Pavia's podcast? Like how the Hawk Tua girls got a podcast. And apparently Vanderbilt expertly used that to motivate their quarterback, reportedly. So I do think that I should get a game ball.
All right, so I'm trying to think. So, okay, so coaches, players, what about like the ops people?
No, I get a game ball before them.
You get a game ball for the ops people? Okay, all right. I mean,
I helped them win more. What did the ops people do?
I assume they have
what
important
did
jobs.
You do?
I motivated the quarterback, reportedly.
So when you say reportedly, who said this?
The evidence is out there because Robbie told you that the evidence is out there. Caroline has seen the evidence, so she can back this up, that it is from a reputable source.
So, all right, well, I believe Caroline, obviously, over you. So legit, Caroline?
Okay. I've seen what the source has said. The source did not directly say that Jared motivated the quarterback, but the source is reputable.
So what did the source say?
The source said that on Friday, they told him that I said that I compared him to the Hawk Tua girl, that he took his lunch and sat in the corner by himself and stewed about it while away from the rest of the team.
The Hawk Tua girl.
Before that, he was about to throw 4 picks in Lexington. Like, you just totally changed history.
Hey,
I say give him all the credit.
I
man.
think I do. I will say this. If Vanderbilt plays Texas and they have College Game Day here, like if we end up doing the show at the game day site on that Friday or whatever, I do hope to get a sit down with Coach Saban. And if we do, I am going to tell Coach Saban about the reverse rat poison. And I expect Coach Saban to be very proud of me for that. That is something Nick Saban would actually, I think, enjoy.
What a world.
Caroline, who wins?
What a world. Joe wins this week. Surprisingly not for the rat poison comments. I'm with Joe.
He's going to let Rand Carthon and Chad Brinker pick the next quarterback, and Joe wins.
Yes, because I don't totally disagree with Joe on that. No, I don't have the utmost trust in this, the alliance, the allegiance, whatever you want to call the people at the top of the Titans organization. The committee. There you go. That's another one. Also, the Will Levis commercials. Like I think good job on Will Levis, because it doesn't look like you're going to be cashing many checks playing football moving forward. Cash in while you can.
Hey, it's like who was it? Was it Chance Warmack that took out an insurance policy that he would stink and then claimed on it?
Hey,
really?
That's it's hedging yourself.
I think he was like the first player in the history of Lloyd's of London to take a loss of value on getting a second contract, and because he didn't get a second contract, he was able to claim on it.
Chestnut checkers.
I mean, I guess like NFL star. Insurance Business of America. Boy, they use the word star here loosely. NFL star Chance Warmack becomes the first to collect loss of value insurance policy. He's on track to receive the maximum payout. Yeah, that's bad. I think I'm
That's a
disappointed.
sassy little addition to the end.
I'm disappointed in Caroline this week. Letting Rand
Why?
Carthon and Chad Brinker pick the next quarterback. Would you really let them pick
Fire
the next
everybody.
quarterback?
Every time. Keep firing them. Fire.
I didn't want to fire the general manager when they fired the general manager last time.
Now you just make up for it with more firings. Just keep firing.
I didn't want to fire. See, here's the difference between me and them. I didn't want to fire Mike Mularkey because he was winning. I didn't want to fire John Robinson because he was winning. I want to fire Rand Carthon and Chad Brinker for the same reasons I wanted to fire David Poyle and John Hines, because they were losing. Same reason I wanted to fire Jerry Stackhouse, because he was losing. See what I'm saying?
Yes, and losing like you did today. Congrats.
That is true. Jared versus Joe is presented by Pella Windows and Doors of Nashville. Thank you guys as well. Plus, speaking of the winning and the losing, I do think the Titans are caught up in a real problem the NFL has. And there's an expert that I think brings up a very, very valid point about the way the NFL operates and how bad teams like the Titans do it. We'll do it next.
if you're Amy and you have invested all this into this, and I mean, it's a big change now, right? And yeah, a little bit of a half measure change maybe last year. Now it's the full thing. And you're really going to entertain starting over? I can't, especially with all the criticism she has, to me, rightfully received about rashly making decisions in the last few years. I think I'm 2%, and I feel like that's 25% is wild, Robin.
Have you seen her the last 2 years?
I know. But again, that's part of my reasoning.
That was the morning show talking about, hey, what's the likely chance that Ran Carthon ends up getting fired? And again, I always lump Ran Carthon and Chad Brinker together. You know, everybody, to me, I think what's going to ultimately happen is Rand's going to take the blame, and they're going to make Chad kind of the football head. They're not going to demote him and name him GM. He'll be the president of football operations, and then once they fire everybody, then they'll get a GM who will be GM, and it'll be back to normal. But that's just a different discussion for a different day. But again, I'm told I'm not allowed to fire these guys that lose. That if the Titans end up with the number 1 pick after 2 years of bad moves, that they're going to then let those guys select the next quarterback. And I don't like that. I want to do what Washington did, which is if we stink, we stink, blow it up, and then let the GM pick his let the GM pick his coach, let the GM and the coach pick their quarterback, and let them go. But that's just me. But I keep thinking about this odd scenario with Titan fans and football fans and everything in general, which is Titan fans think I'm crazy. Now, again, 70% of the fans on Twitter on the poll we ran said John Robbins is better than Ran Carthon. And 61%, I think, said they wanted somebody else to make the pick. So maybe it's not the fans, but I do think it is inevitable that the Titans will have some sort of Carthon, Brinker, Callahan picking the next quarterback, which I hate. And I cannot get over the fact that in year 2, Mike Mularkey won a playoff game and got fired. But 2 years of being worse and worse, we can't be mad at Carthon and Brinker. And John Robinson was 7-5 and got fired. But the Titans in a year and a half have won 7 games since then. But nobody there gets fired. Mike Vrabel won games and got fired. He had a winning record. Brian Callahan, I mean, I don't even know if he's going to be able to keep the team together. And it actually reminds me of something very insightful that Snoop Dogg, of all people, said. This was about 7 years ago when Jeff Fisher and Eric Dickerson got into it, which led to Jeff Fisher being fired by the Rams. And Jeff Fisher kicked Eric Dickerson off the sideline. And Snoop Dogg was on set of Undisputed, the Skip Bayless show on Fox Sports with Shannon Sharp. And Shannon Sharp, trying to defend his old coach, Brian Billick, makes a point that leads to Snoop Dogg with a theory that actually might be true and the Titans might be an example of.
Brian Billick, from 1999 to 2007, won 2 AFC North titles, won Super Bowl 35, and had 0 back-to-back losing seasons. He can't get a job. He can't even get an interview.
Oh, you talking about the coach that's on CBS to be doing this?
No. Brian Billick, the one that's on the NFL Network.
Yeah, but he used to coach.
He was coaching Baltimore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's a great coach.
He can't get a job. He can't even get an interview.
Probably because he know how to win. They like coaches that like to lose. Like I'm watching the NFL industry. They don't really respect coaches that win. When you lose, they like, for example, Marvin Lewis. Hate to say it, you've been having a horrible season since you've been there. He should have been gone. But they keep reinstating him, giving him opportunities. And it's like, why did he keep getting opportunity and Billick's not getting opportunity?
Yeah. He's not wrong. I do not understand it. In the NFL, it's like, well, you know, Brian Billick can't get an interview. Why not? Well, he wins too much. I mean, that's the problem with this coach. That's the problem with this. He wins too much. Whereas, again, 2 years, Mike Mularkey wasn't good enough. They were the worst team in the league. They were 3-13. Mike Mularkey takes the team over 9-7 immediately. 9-7 the next year. They win a playoff game on the road at Kansas City, fired. They are now vying for the number 1 pick. And we're supposed to think that those guys shouldn't be held to not even the same standard that Mike Mularkey was, but I mean, the same stratosphere as Mike Mularkey. And the only thing I can come up with is what Snoop Dogg said. They like coaches that like to lose. That's what it's got to be. Stillman and Company, 102.5 The Game.
Five seconds remain. Out to center ice. And the Predators disgustingly look up at the scoreboard clock. Defeated here tonight 7-3 by the Seattle Kraken.
So I don't know how they picked Tennessee Broadcaster of the Year, Tennessee Sportscaster of the Year, but it's always either Mike Keith or Pete Weber. I got to tell you something. I think Pete Weber has a solid edge over Mike Keith because you'll never, and I love Mike Keith, you'll never hear Mike Keith use the word disgustingly there. Give me that Pete Weber call again. Good God, that was juicy.
5 seconds remain. Out to center ice. And the Predators disgustingly look up at the scoreboard clock. Defeated here tonight, 7-3 by the Seattle Kraken.
You know why he can say that? Because the Predators live in an organization where they tell the truth. You know, Barry Trotz comes on the show and he's like, yeah, this guy's not doing well enough. Yeah, you know, this guy's got to step it up. Yeah, I was mad at this guy. As opposed to the Titan land where everything's great. Let me say this. 0-3 is not a good start. And while stranger things have happened, McDavid and Draisaitl own Bridgestone Arena. So at this time on Friday, I'm a little worried it's going to be 0-4. Now, I am not panicking on the season. You know, I do buy in that it takes a little time to gel, but you can also win some games while it's taking time to gel. I thought the start last night was horrendous. I thought the third period was horrendous last night. And I am worried about the Predators. Again, my worry's not at a 10, but it's there. And I'm starting to feel like the second line center for the Predators is kind of like the right tackle position for the Titans. And Tommy Novak is Nicholas Petit-Frere, a.k.a.
PT.
But when I told Ian that, Ian did say that Tommy Novak is probably a little bit better than PT. I will say this. When they signed Tommy Novak, when Elliot Friedman went on the midday show before the trade deadline and said first round pick for Tommy Novak, I thought, get him out. Trade him immediately. But I don't think anybody would have actually given up a first round pick for Tommy Novak. That said, he's not signed to a terrible contract. It was a hedged bet, but he will be on the team this year. And he has not been good. You know, since he signed the contract, he was terrible in the playoffs, which I was worried about, and he's been kind of terrible this year. And I think that second line center position with Stamkos and Marchessault, it's affecting the whole team. Now, defense is awful, and the goaltending could be a little bit better, but I think that's going to be the big thing the whole season, is that second line center position. But I am worried, and I am worried about what McDavid and Draisaitl may do tomorrow. And I know they're struggling, but I'm still worried. That's it for us. Stillman and Company, Preds Insiders next.
Smashville Live.
Smashville Live, then Preds Insiders. We'll see everybody tomorrow from the arena at 2.